Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode. What is this? 17? Yeah, 17. Episode 17 of Cosplay Photo Critique. Thanks everyone for hopping on. Tonight we are joined by Chez Photo, or as I will be saying, Riley. um,
Hi.
Thank you so much for being our guest for tonight's episode.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting.
Yeah, no, it should be a good time. Um, because we always do. Had some more technical difficulty hiccups before the stream, but for once it wasn't really on me. So you know what? I'll take that as a win.
It was on me, guys, as usual. It's fine.
Yeah, you know what? It's just bound to happen. I feel like every time we say that we're gonna start at 7, just expect like 7:15 at this point because life happens and yeah.
Or just say 7 and then hope to God we're on time.
Yeah, I mean that's the policy I've been going by of like
It's fashionably late.
7.
Exactly, fashionably late.
Okay, with that, let's get into more about you, Riley. Enough about our problems. Um so let's see here. First, I want to get up off this. Like, how'd you get into cosplay photography? Like, what's your story into this weird world?
Well, it was long, long ago in the year 2010. I was a senior in high school. I had just picked up photography at the time. As you know, a senior, I wanted to get into art school or whatever. And my friends and I were all gonna hop a train to Boston. I was in New Hampshire at the time. And we were gonna hop a train to Boston to go to Anime Boston together and be like, high school weebs having a good time. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be clever if I charged $10 an hour for a photo shoot and made some money? And so I posted on cosplay.com about rest in peace, cosplay.com in 2010, hey, I'm booking for shoots, it's $10 for an hour.
That's fucking real. I bet some of you are too young to even know what that is. Anyway.
Back in cosplay.com.
Back in the day.
When I was your age, there was cosplay.com. And so from there, I was a senior, and so I jumped right into college in Boston, and I just kind of was a one-trick pony at Anime Boston for several years and would sometimes shoot animazement in North Carolina, where I'm from originally, y'all. So I would do AZ, I would do AB, and that was generally it until KatsuCon 2014. And so I went on this crazy road trip with some friends from Boston down to Katsu. That was the blizzard year. Do you guys remember the blizzard that almost killed a bunch of people?
That was the year before I went to the first.
Oh my god, that was wild. It was wild.
Great because the crowd was a lot less crowded.
Yeah, and also it was insane. But that was my first Katsu, and then from there I started taking it a little more seriously because up until then I was just giving people all their images, unedited, unculled, just here you go. Here you go.
Oh my god!
Here you go.
Amazing.
So looking at people's work at Katsu and the quality of work and the tier of cosplays, I ended up stepping up my game a little bit and seeing, okay, well, people offer edits. All right, I'll try that. So each year I just started growing a little bit more with KatsuCon, and I grew more and more as a professional as well. And so throughout these years, I really actually owe almost everything to cosplay photography because I'm now a full-time photographer. I'm a wedding photographer. So I wouldn't have known anything about being a professional had it not been for the growth that cosplay photography provided to me. And every year, just kind of learning more with posing people, working with people, all sorts of people and groups and amounts of people. It's just so I owe a lot of it to cosplay photography.
Yeah, I feel like that's a cool path more and more people are heading down by essentially learning how to be a professional photographer via cosplay photography, which is a humorous thing because I still kind of almost find the idea of like professional cosplay photographer like a humorous idea, because no one can do that. Like, to do it professionally is like, it's pretty much
Hard.
impossible.
It'd be impossible.
It would be really hard. You know, I've thought about jumping all around the country to try and keep myself afloat with it, but it's just I like to start advertising like a month, 2 months tops in advance, and just like the amount of cons there are, and like the math with like the scheduling and the
that
advertising.
sounds like a
I just
nightmare.
No,
Yeah.
no,
I have a hard
thank
time
you.
scheduling for one con, let alone
Yeah.
No, that
my
sounds,
life.
that sounds like an absolute just
nightmare.
yeah.
Yeah, the most I've traveled for another con is Dragon Con, which I really wish I had gone to this year, but I love that con. That is such a fun, that's my favorite one, honestly, to shoot, because it's got so much versatility without the crowds that KatsuCon has, which is just like getting more and more insane
Dragon
every
Con
year.
looks freaking packed.
I'm just
But
like,
it's spread out. It's spread out.
Oh,
I feel like your opinion on that is opposite of everyone else's opinion I've ever heard.
Yeah,
on
I've
Dragon
never heard
Con.
someone say that.
I love it there
Which is-
because I can shoot at these
fine.
like red church doors. I can shoot at this Sheraton pool. I can shoot at like these like walls with texture. Like there's so much more space to explore without that congested
see what
line
you're
of the
saying.
gazebo, the
maybe
fucking like
just-
shrubbery. Like
Maybe Riley's just calling everyone out. She's like, yo, I take good pictures at Dragon Con. What up, haters?
What's up, haters? Dragon Con's got great locations. If anyone wants any advice, hit me
Interesting.
up.
I
Yeah.
never would have guessed that at
Yeah.
all.
Some of my favorite work has been there at cons, that is, like, you know, specifically. So, yeah.
So
Yeah, you're literally the first person.
yeah, I've never heard that before, which is humorous.
Here I am.
So you kind of have your basis in shooting cons, but going kind of through your photos, you see a handful of location shoots. Do you prefer shooting location, or are cons kind of your where you're having the most fun?
Well, definitely location. I feel like a lot of people would probably say that. I've only just started getting into location shoots because there's just so much versatility in the locations here in Boston, right even outside the metro area, because I don't have a car. But there's so much that's accessible. But I've also found that since doing on-location shoots a lot just in this past year, that there's a different sort of approach I have towards either shoot. At a con, I'm definitely more trying to focus on that person's costume and how to frame it in such a way where they can get that showcase that they're paying for. They're probably debuting a costume for the first time. They're really excited about it. So like my shooting style at cons feels a little more simplistic. I try to just focus on the pose and maybe like the rule of thirds with just like maybe some interesting lines and angles in the background, but you won't see me playing with Dutch angles or, you know, anything fancy. But I find that when you shoot on location, you can focus more on the narrative of the photo and more the character and what's happening with them. So that's really been something I've learned lately about that difference between it. So to answer your question, I really like on location shoots, and I'm trying to push for those more because those are so much more rewarding for both of us on both sides of the lens.
Absolutely.
Yes, I want to see more on-location from you. Be great.
Thank you.
What else was I gonna ask you? Oh, is there any cosplays that you've always wanted to shoot but never have gotten the chance to?
I thought about this because I was watching recaps of your old streams for the show, and I was thinking about that lately. So I'm not really a part of many current fandoms right now, so a lot of things that I want to do are like things that got me into I don't know, nerdy weeb shit anyway. So like
bring back that old stuff. I'm telling you, 2019 is gonna be the year old stuff
I
can
know,
like return.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, Mr. Krabs. Yeah, no, definitely. I think I would love to do something really pretentious like Sakizo in Venice. I think I saw something like that recently where I'm like, that would be like a dream come true.
That's not pretentious. That's called Vogue. Just do
like,
it.
please. I've been to Venice once before. I was fortunate enough to go in college, and like that would just be amazing. But otherwise, I really love Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy XII. Those are my two favorite video games. So I would love to do something with a group just on location. I was thinking there are these ice castles in New Hampshire that show up once a year in like January, and
I'm
they're
Googling this.
they're
So
incredible.
I am so pissed because we had them once in Wisconsin. They did it, and I actually think they did it twice. So that they once.
Oh, it's like a traveling thing?
So
Wait, what?
I don't think so.
I
It's
think
a,
multiple. They like set up different locations.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But
Whoa, this is so cool.
but
I know, but like ice caverns. Okay, so like either Elsa, duh, or
Yeah.
like ice caverns in Final Fantasy IX at the ice castles in New Hampshire. Like, please,
Man,
like,
but let's be
I
real.
want that
Anything
shit.
would look dope in an ice castle.
Yeah.
I know. But
But-
like for me, bringing that visual that is important to me to life, like that would be very fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of yeah.
Wisconsin had it. The first year that they had it, I didn't know about it, so I missed it that year. So I set up a cosplay photo meetup at one.
Oh.
But then we had unseasonably warm weather, so they shut
Oh,
down the ice
no.
castle, and then we rescheduled, and they never reopened it because it was just too warm. So, and they've never been
Oh,
back.
wow.
So I'm like, so
Well, we don't
pissed.
have that problem up here.
Not
so
in Boston.
You'd think
No.
no, it's just I'm in Wisconsin. We're not like
know.
mean we're not
Oh,
warm
true.
weather. It's just we got screwed, and now they're
I'm so
scared and won't
sorry.
come back.
come to the Shire. We'll have a photo day there and be very cold and bundled up. But
That'd be dope as fuck.
it would be so cool. Y'all should come up. Come up. Be really cool.
Final question for you, unless Sarah's got anything that she wants to ask real quick.
No, I was gonna ask the dream shoot.
Yeah.
I'm stealing your work, Sarah. I'm sorry.
I don't really care.
So what piece of advice would you give to cosplay photographers? It can be advice for beginners, or if you have a separate piece for like just in general, whatever.
One piece of advice. Okay, so I've been hearing some like pretty unprofessional stuff coming from people, and hearing some complaints from the community and the cosplayers about people being unprofessional.
Here's the tea, you guys.
I would just suggest that you make your policies very clear up front. You set them, you dedicate yourself to them, and then when people respect you as a professional, you'll see yourself grow. For me, actually, now that I'm talking more about it, for me, it took a lot of every con. I would learn something different about. I really need to put this in my about, or I really need to put this in my policies. Think of everything that could go wrong with a client or a photo shoot, or a way where they might inconvenience you with lateness, or they might not show up at all. Think of ways to both protect yourself as a professional, state your policies up front, and make just a really clear understanding between yourself and the people that are booking you. And I think that you will be respected, and in turn will book people who, will fulfill you in that way.
Yeah,
So
that's
like, put it all in writing,
phenomenal
man. Like,
advice.
Yep.
And phenomenal advice that I know a lot more people should follow.
yeah, because I'm hearing complaints, and I don't know anything, but like I'm just hearing that people aren't receiving their photos, or people don't even have an
I've-
idea of when they're going to receive them, and it's like, put that, like, this is my turnaround time. My turnaround time, it's pretty big. Like mine's 4 to 6 weeks, and people
Yeah.
are aware of that when they book with me. So don't leave people in the dark,
Yeah.
because you want to establish a repertoire like with people, and
Right.
so
I've
that's my
heard
piece.
a fair amount of complaints in the past, pretty much this year, about a lot of very good photographers and that are missing their deadlines, and it's such an easy way to kill your good name and kind of
Your clientele, yeah.
yeah, and it makes it hard for me to necessarily like theoretically, if those people, I've heard poor things talked about them because they're not living up to their end of the bargain, and like, let's say there's a ton of great photographers that I've heard this stuff about, and let's say I want to have them on as a guest for this show, but like I hear these things about them and failing to deliver, and like
it gives us a bad name too, because we're
It does.
photographers who do deliver, and like I hear on Twitter that people are mad, cosplayers are mad, like at photographers, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I don't know. At the same time, cosplayers need to be sure of who they're hiring. They can't just be hiring someone willy-nilly. Like
This is not a one-way street.
You need to ask your friends. You need to get real recommendations. You need to see full portfolios. You can't just trust someone just because they have a DSLR, and a DSLR doesn't make you a professional. And I just don't. I want people to be protected on both sides.
And even if I'm friends with these people, I can't in good conscience endorse people that are doing this. Like I want to. Friends, I'm not going to call anyone out by name because that is not my job. It's up to the cosplayers who are being in this situation to talk about this and let them know. I am not going to be the one that does this. However,
because we know
people that are doing this
say it too.
Fix this problem, because we find out about it and it makes us think less of you.
Loony.
And we do not want to do that. Like that is such a bummer. When I hear that, I'm just like, oh. So
my TLDR, my professional opinion and professional advice would be just act professional and you will be respected, and make sure that when you're acting professional, you'll get clients that respect you, because I sure as hell have had people that don't respect me. And, I don't want that either.
Important to emphasize that on both sides you need to be professional, because yes, the photographer needs to be professional, but also like it's the other way around as well, because like you mentioned that over the years you've been like adding to your contracts and your forms and all that crap, and I've been doing the same thing, but that's all because we've experienced things from cosplayers that didn't treat us with respect. So I'm not trying to turn the tables here and be like, oh, well, respect photographers too. But like, as someone who does both,
no, you're totally right.
Yeah, like both sides are equally responsible for being unprofessional.
My policy and booking page is this long because of what other people have done. So
I know people are like, Sarah, your thing is so long. I'm like, well, it leaves no room for error. Like if I fuck up, it says it right there. If you fuck up, it's in the contract. You signed it. So, I mean, whatever. So
sorry, I got super real on stream for a second.
No.
Have you not heard us before? This is important.
No, this is very important stuff. So don't feel bad for bringing this up. It's maybe something that we should be saying more. So
I also want to say that, like, because I've told like random people that have reached out to me on Instagram before, because I brought this up just like in passing. Feel free to talk to any photographer that you know, even if you don't really know them personally, but if you feel like you trust their opinion in like, just because you like their work or they seem like nice online, or just like, if you want opinions on photographers, reach out to people in the community that you trust. I've definitely noticed recently that like followers that I'm not I don't really know them. I've never met them before. Have asked me before, and I'll be like, well, you should, like this person's really good, or like maybe stay away from this person. And
please ask us. Feel free, especially with like, we don't want to get too into this, but like other questionable practices and things coming to light. Don't just hire someone blindly. Just don't hire someone blindly is all I want to say. Like, ask us. Feel free to message me or Sarah or Andrew, like saying, hey, what do you suggest? I see that you're booked up, or I am not going to the same con you are, but I'm going to this one. Do you know anyone going?
Yes. Do that.
We want you all on both sides of the lens to be protected. And so, that's my answer.
Absolutely. That was a good question to end that kind of introduction on. It was beautiful. With that, let's start to transition into this critique here. Get off of the heavy stuff. So a bit of housekeeping stuff. I know this is stuff that I am repeating because I do that, but just want to bring it up again, just because I've seen it happen more and more with the critiques. So if you're submitting photos to critique, know that only one photo per critique. So if you like submit more than one photo, it either that photo will get pushed back to the next critique, or I am just gonna pick one and go with that. So just submit one. It makes my life easier. And if you're a cosplayer submitting a photo, even if you did the editing, you need to get permission from the photographer in order to submit. It's totally fine that you do. I just need to explicitly know that you did that. So leave that in the comments if you are the cosplayer or even the editor and not involved as the cosplayer. Just I need to know that in order to be able to use it in the critique. I'm going to be adding these as like notes in the submission form here soon. On that note, the person that helped me with the submissions, they're going to be doing some updates. So one, we're going to be adding a checkbox that is saying that you consent to having your picture uploaded so that we can start sharing high-res pictures with you guys so you can see them in better quality along with us. So that should be cool. Also going to try and start getting the metadata for photos so that we can kind of have a better idea of kind of the photos so we can share that with you. Probably won't do that on screen, but it'll just be a good piece of information to know. So look forward to those updates pretty soon. As always, if there's someone that you would like to see on the stream, feel free to suggest them. I just posted the link to that in the chat. We're always looking for more people to have on. So if there's a photographer that you think is going to be a good fit for us, please let us know. Note that we can't have everyone on, and there's lots of reasons why, and they can be as simple as that person doesn't have a mic and a webcam, because that's happened multiple times to us now.
Almost everyone.
Yeah, and other thing is, if you're in chat, critique along with us. I know I say this every time, but we're trying to follow along with chat and watch what we're saying as we're going along, and we'll try and implement. If you got a viewpoint that we haven't said, we'd love to hear about it, and we'll try to mention it as well. So keep those comments going and just have fun. We want to have a chill environment, so make it fun.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, so let's do this. Let's jump in to the first photo. Oops, I gotta go back here. Okay, this first one is from Elka Zone. I think they submitted last time as well. Sarah, do you want to lead us off here?
Cool. Oh my god, so I really like this, how we're opening with this like really fun, like actiony dynamic shot. Really want to know, I wonder if this was taken on like a green screen or something. I'm really intrigued to know how this was taken, because I'm just like, the perspective is pretty cool, and then like to have all like the effects, and the sky just seems like perfectly in place. Anyway,
I think they said they actually went on location for this shot. My guess is
really?
Well, I mean it's the one thing I can say is it's flipped, because like if you look at the clouds, the highlights coming from below, so that's how you know it's flipped. But
yeah,
like,
I kind of had a feeling it was flipped, because at first glance I was a little confused. I was like, wait, what is the perspective of this photo? Where was this taken? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so my first thing, I guess, is, as I already said, I think because she's upside down, I mean, which makes I feel a little disoriented. So I almost want to like flip it, actually, just to see.
Yeah.
Let's see. How does it translate flipped?
Whoa.
I don't like it as much flipped.
I did 190-degree angle to the left, so I've just rotated it left once, and actually that was kind of cool, like the vertical. Let me see.
It's a bit,
yeah,
I'd say it's a bit too tall that way, at least with that crop, but it's still kind of neat.
Yeah, the crop is a bit tall, but I think the vertical one reads better to me personally. That was really my main critique right off the bat for this photo, is that horizontally, I think because there's so much going on initially, it was hard for me to like process what exactly was happening in the photo. And also because like obviously you don't normally see people upside down, my brain was like trying to just like process all of that. So yeah, that'd be my first piece of critique.
Yeah, I definitely, when I saw this, I lifted up my laptop and gave it a good rotate.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
I will say, just reading the comment for this is, we hiked to shoot this at Mount, I'm going to butcher this name, Batasulasong. Yeah, that's not how you pronounce that, I'm sure, for this photo, but it looks like they did do some masking in for this. So it is like, it's probably like location to an extent, like just played it in. So it's probably a mix of.
I want to see the before so bad.
I'm curious. Yeah. If I could jump in, I think my one critique would be that it just feels like there's some unfortunate placement with the clouds in between the legs where it just looks a little comical.
I didn't even notice that till now.
God.
No.
And I'm so sorry I had to point that out, but that's something I noticed. Otherwise, I actually do like it vertical. And I really like how much thought you put into this perspective, because I'm definitely not this. I would never think to do this. I'm certainly like a more straight on shooter. I don't really get funky with angles. So I applaud you for this execution. And I think that there's a really good rule of thirds here. And that's just my one big thing is watch where that cloud is. Maybe clone out something right between the legs.
I can't believe I didn't see that. Now it's just
So
Riley.
So was it time to mosey on down to Nitpick Town?
Of course it is. It's number two really for Nitpick Town.
Okay, so my complaint is that the motion blur implementation is solid when you look at it for a little bit, but the more time you kind of spend looking at it, the more it kind of doesn't hold up in my mind. The reason being is a lot of the motion doesn't seem like it's following the natural path of it. Like I don't know what I'd call this. The right leg. The motion blur on that doesn't look like it's following like the motion that it would be moving on. And the other thing for me is like if you look, it continues along the leg. It's the one, like it would kind of blend up. Like here, let me zoom in for you guys on stream. So like at the foot here, this makes sense, but the motion here doesn't make sense. And I know that's hard to fix. And also like you can tell like the blur just kind of is like painted on. The one suggestion I would have and to do this motion blur better is if you go into your blur gallery and you use the path blur in Photoshop. There's a lot of cool features that you can use instead of using like blur motion blur and you're stuck with the one angle. That the path blur is a really powerful tool that allows you to kind of do more extensive things. Also, like if you look at the bullet here, like that motion blur isn't totally in line with the path the bullet's taking. And then as long as we're in Nitpick Town, if you look at these bullets and you zoom in, I wonder if these were placed with like a screen blend mode or something similar, because like you can see on that highlight you're getting the color of the sky behind.
The blue.
Just take a careful note of that, because that should be a bright highlight. It's happening a little bit in here as well as actually don't think it's happening on that bullet. But it's just something that I keyed in on quickly because I'm annoying and ridiculously anal. But yeah,
No, it
doesn't
is
indicate.
happening on all three. You just can't see it as much in the middle one.
For sure. You guys got any final thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, the things that you brought up with like, I don't know, I'm a very simplistic shooter. I don't add any special effects, so the kind of things that you guys brought up wouldn't be something that I would necessarily jump right on, but it's great that you guys, can nitpick that. I guess my one lasting word of advice would just be to clone out the cloud in between their legs just a little bit, just to create some separation, and that's just like what an instant, like, sort of comical thing would be for that. Otherwise, like, I really like her expression, and again, like, great execution with the pose.
I think the only other thing, the more I look at it, that I would say is maybe that kind of like the smoke that you have coming off of the gun. I would maybe give that a little bit of motion blur, and the kind of smoke layer that you have in the bit more of the foreground. I'm not sure that's really working for me.
I actually did just notice something too, if I might.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm not sure if it's just the light, but her, like, just looking at it, the right side of her wig and her hair looks like there's a different sort of toning to it, and maybe that you maybe lightened her face and her wig, but perhaps forgot about that one corner, or maybe that's just like the light. Maybe that's just the shadow. That's just the shadow. You're right. No, you're right. Never mind. That is all.
Carry on.
Great job.
Carry on.
Forget I spoke.
Okay, we're fine. Okay. Well, with that, let's move on to the next shot. Okay, this one is from Star Queen Studios. Chez, you are up for this one.
So I love this girl. Eileen is awesome. She and I worked together recently. Right off the bat, I really love this toning. I like the. I'm a natural light shooter, which is a very nice way of saying I suck at lighting. So any sort of thing that manipulates with that is already like props. I like the sort of diva feel. I don't know, unfortunately, who she's cosplaying or what she's cosplaying from. But I suppose that I would watch out for that hand coming out of her head, and just move that instead of it going out like this, whatever she's doing, bring it out a little bit further. And yeah, that would probably be what I would want to bring up at first, and perhaps dude, I'm not sure if there's facial retouching there, but it just looks her face looks a little shiny. So I might want to mattify that up a little bit. So those are the two things that sort of jumped out to me at first. I do kind of like the stage light feel. Perhaps as well, like if you felt like it, you could clone out the door handles in the background that might seem a little distracting. But yeah, those are the things. I do like her pose. She's very poseable. She's great to work with. So I know that she's capable of a lot, and she's a really fun model to work with. So you lucked out with having her.
Apparently it's from Persona 3, Dancing Moon Knight.
Okay.
I was like, this has to be some kind of like idly and or rhythm game or something.
She likes her idols. Yeah. And I think that it works with the atmosphere and the glam and the glitz, and there's so yeah, there's that.
I've got some thoughts, but Sarah, do you want to jump in before me?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like the location's pretty interesting. It makes me feel like I'm at like backstage for like a concert or something. So glad I was thinking that, because that would be, I think, kind of spot on for maybe Persona 3 Dancing All Night or Moon Knight, whatever. I do kind of wonder though if maybe I would have moved the model a little more to like the left, just so I can't. This is just personal preference and kind of dumb, but I kind of wish I didn't see the handles on the doors.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, cloning those out. Yeah.
Oh, did you say that? I totally missed that.
That's totally fine.
Well, yes. Anyway. And then I was going to bring up the posing, but you already brought that up. So, yeah.
Okay. So I would say kind of that the first thing I was going to say was like kind of framing. I feel like just the weighting of the photo feels a little off with the model like kind of centered in the frame, but not totally. So I would almost maybe even just for the sake of this photo, I would maybe crop in a little bit. Secondly, I know we talked about the hand growing out of the head, but also that front hand. Something that I would really focus on trying to achieve in these photos is if you can have their arm pushed a little bit so you get that negative space in between their waist and their arm. Because
See that curve.
yeah, you really want to show that curve. You want to have that highlighting their body shape, because right now it kind of masks their her body shape and we can't really tell. And I don't know this person, but I imagine they're a very petite individual. But just because the arm's there, it doesn't read like that to me in this shot. So if you can just move that arm back a little bit so you can get that negative space,
Yeah, you want that curve of her back.
That's going to fix so much.
And the booty.
The S curve, you guys.
We want that curve. Yeah. Also, someone else brought up the shadows kind of losing generally that shape that we're looking for. You know,
yeah, I was gonna bring up the like her legs, or not her legs, like her pants in the background are kind of blending in a bit too much for me. So you're losing some info.
Maybe even for fun, it would be cool if you added some yellow to the background so that it's not just all purple and blue. And adding a little bit of yellow to the shadows. I also, my eye continues to be drawn to this brighter highlight area on the lower half of the photo by her boot that's further away from us. My eye keeps getting drawn there. So maybe with love, I edit in Photoshop, not Lightroom. So like maybe changing the levels there and just turning it down a little bit so that the eye doesn't kind of keep going. Because I'm looking at her shoes a lot. Like, I don't know. That's just me.
I agree.
Yeah, I
so
agree too.
toning that down just a little bit and just really kind of like really looking at your picture from like super far away, or like sometimes I edit and the photo will be like the size of a thumbnail that you would see on Instagram.
What I like to do in terms of that is I will actually like duplicate the entire image. I will change it to black and white, and then I'll go to filter Gaussian blur and crank that Gaussian blur up so that you kind of lose like the ability to really make out, and you're really just evaluating it to be like where the different values are in the photo, and that helps you figure out where your eyes are gonna go to first in the photo. Kind of takes out the idea of subject in the photo and purely bases it on values. I find that really a helpful way to evaluate.
Yeah.
You demonstrated that last time,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super helpful.
Yeah, and maybe even just for fun, like cloning the lights that are shining on the left side of the photo and just bringing that over to the right and having like double lights. Like, why not? It takes, 2 seconds. Like, you could do that and add a total other element of like oomph to that photo. So
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I was thinking almost you could create one large light bar at the top. That's kind of
full strip.
Yeah.
Cool.
The last thing I want to bring up is the graininess of this picture. So I'm sure this photo was taken at like a high ISO, and that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with taking a photo at a high ISO, but I think kind of the way it was actually looks like not high ISO. This was taken at ISO 500, so not very high.
Oh, really?
So my guess is that the shadows were probably cranked a bunch to get a bunch of noise in this photo. However, it's not even particularly the noise that bothers me. It's the sharpening that was done on the noise. There was lots of color reduction in this noise, but if you look at it zoomed in, which I will screen share for you guys to get a better idea of, you can see just how like this area is just a bunch of really sharp noise pattern. And I'd just be careful of that. Like, it's not reading very like this with it zoomed out, but You know, if you,
Mhm.
it's not that this
If
is
this
even
were like a print.
yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's more just like best practices moving forward too. And like you don't need to have it like this. You can
Mm-hmm.
have it less sharp than it is here. So
Yeah, and it also depends on what software you're using and what sharpening tool, because you could be using the sharpening filter on Photoshop, or you could be using high pass, or you could be using something completely different. I don't know what
yeah.
you use,
Yeah,
but
and if you're using the one
it
in
depends.
Lightroom, it's got the ability to adjust kind of the details that it's applying to, because like there's lots of areas that are being sharpened with noise where there's no detail to be sharpening. So
Hmm. Overall, I do want to see a little bit of yellow in here just for fun. Like if you were editing on Photoshop and you added a color balance layer with, playing with the yellows and just not having it. One thing I like about Photoshop is the control you have over an image. So I'm not saying add yellow to the whole thing, but maybe add it a little bit in the shadows and the midtones in the background. But that would just be, fun. I really like blues and yellows, but that's just
what
me.
what
So
Riley
whatever.
is saying is, have you ever seen The Simpsons?
Stop.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's like that anime. It's like that anime, The Simpsons.
Stop.
It's my favorite anime OP is The Simpsons OP.
God. God. Moving
Anyway.
on. Do you guys have any final thoughts on this one before we move on to the next shot?
No.
Okay. Next photo.
It's fine. Now I'm just like
is
picturing like the
from-
Evangelion like opening theme behind like the Simpsons animation. I don't know why. Continue.
I would not
Oh
be
my-
shocked if that is a thing that you
That
can
needs
find
to
online.
exist immediately.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, before we totally derail this, let's move on to this next photo by
my God.
Devin Johnson. Tomb Raider is dope.
My
Can I
wife.
just say the grunge on this cosplayer is amazing?
I was gonna say
she got
that.
dirty. This is great.
So I'm like scarred by that because one of my friends was cosplaying as Tomb Raider, and it was a location shoot, and we were getting ready on my apartment porch, and she was using a bunch of like fake blood and dirt, and it got a bunch on my porch, and like it took forever for that stuff to come out of my porch.
No.
I'm just like, damn it.
Anything for the photo.
Yeah, it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. It was just like, come on.
For beauty.
So I really like the kind of overall grittiness of this photo, and beyond just the kind of grunge the cosplayer has on them, but like kind of itself. Oh my god. Rachel's in the comments says, "Is your porch still stained?" I blame you, Rachel. I blame you. No, it's mostly out. Mostly.
Dead.
But no, it's just kind of like the values throughout the image work really well to kind of aid to this grungy feel. On top of that, like just like the colors. Normally I'm not a big fan of this really like bright saturated green, but they work well in this environment.
Yeah, I agree.
With this
Usually
cosplay.
I'd be like, bring a little more blue in, make it more mellow green.
Yeah, even like I'd think less adjusting of the colors and just bringing down the vibrance
Saturation.
of them, not lightness, vibrant, or no, luminance. Luminance is the word I was looking for.
Whatever.
And just, I mean, I'd still maybe turn it down, the saturation and luminance just a smidge. But overall, I think it's kind of helping aid to this grunginess of this photo.
Yeah, I really like that.
That said, my biggest problem with this photo is the framing. It just feels a little bit off to me. Like I think what this shot needs is to be a little bit wider. You have this is a thought that I have on photography, and I don't know if it's particularly me, but I would say every time that you have a cosplayer or a model on the left of the frame, which I know their head is centered in the frame, but the majority of their body is on the left of the frame. And they're looking also to the left of the frame, it's really going to throw off the balance because
that's really cool.
Everything is weighted to one side. They're like, if you kind of follow the lines that her bodies make, you hit her eyes lead out of the frame. And interestingly enough, you've got the like log that's right behind her head, so it kind of, that line especially accentuates my eyes leaving the frame. If you have them looking the other direction and into the frame, it can kind of help you loop back and come back to them without immediately leaving the frame of the photo.
Yeah, I never thought of that. That's really cool and a great point. Really cool.
Also, this is Dutch angle ? The angle's getting me here because I don't know if it's intentional or not. So
yeah, I don't know.
Because like the wall on the side almost made me think it's straight, but then you look at the water, which should be level, it's tilted, but not like an extreme amount.
Yeah, but is it because are they kind of on a hill, sort of? Like,
I mean, the water still would be level because that's
true.
Because it's not flowing. That's strongly.
I don't know, a lot of Dutch angle emoji
if you got them Dutch angle emojis, go crazy. And if you don't have them, consider subscribing so you can get them sweet Dutch angle emojis.
Dear God.
You know you want them. Come on, don't lie. Also, if you're playing the for whatever reason somehow has created the cosplay photo critique drinking game. Take a drink. Yeah, no, I would say straighten it. It just it doesn't feel like an intentional Dutch angle to me. It just kind of makes it feel crooked to me. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah. The angle of it definitely was throwing me off. Sorry. Continue.
I think it's probably pretty tricky because it sounds like the photographer was also just as immersed in the environment as the subject is, as you do when you're shooting on location. And so they probably just were squatting weird on a rock, or as you do, to
I have so many vertical photos that I have screwed up and be like, yeah, this is straight. And then I look at it after I shot it and I'm like,
you're like,
not even close. What was I on?
Big mood.
One thing, I mean, I like it was said at the beginning, I really love how immersed she looks in this environment. That's what the most important thing is. However, my biggest thing and the only thing really that I want more out of this photo is her. And sometimes your subject isn't giving you exactly what you want out of the photo. And I just want a little bit more from her expression because everything else is so immersive. We've got the grunge of her costume, we've got the trickling water. Like, I'm looking at this picture and I could hear like the trickle of the water and the sound of like her feet going through it, and the moment of anticipation of her about to load her bow. I want her looking a little more intense. So what I would say in this situation is like, I don't know her name, but like Sally, this looks great. I want you to just do that lunge again, but I want you to really feel it. I want you to give me a little more. And sometimes that's all you need to say to someone is, I just want you to give me a little more. Is it Lara Croft?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You're Lara Croft. Like, I want you to feel it. So give me that lunge again. You're loading your bow. Like, you're already like, ass deep in water. Like, might as well like go the extra mile and really sell it in the expression. So like, sometimes it's just a matter of choosing the photo that has like maybe the stronger expression. And that's kind of like my only critique. I really like the toning, and like I keep getting drawn to like the textures of her costume, and I think that you really accentuated that, and that's great. But I just want a little bit more from her face.
I agree. And I know like doing like more like angry expressions. First of all, it's really hard. Second of all, it's like you can feel very self-conscious about it because cosplay photography or in being a cosplayer is usually very much about looking really pretty and like looking perfect. Sometimes they make my model feel more comfortable if they're kind of like, I don't know how to do this, or like I really don't want to do this. I'll just I'll demonstrate for them what I want them to do so they feel more comfortable doing it, because I can say, hey, can you look a little more angry? But if they don't feel comfortable doing it, that's not going to come across well in the photo at all, and you can tell that they're uncomfortable. So sometimes it's good to just kind of like demonstrate for them, and then they'll be like, okay, and then it'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are already out here doing an on-location shoot, and both of you want just as badly for this photo to sell it, just like how you want it. And I think that everything else is really great about it, but just a little more oomph from her expression. Also, the side of her face, is that a shadow from her hair? Like those two stripes coming from her eyes?
Yeah,
or is that,
I think they are.
I don't.
That's what's true.
Wait, it's coming from what?
Her hair?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to anybody?
No. Or is it mud? I don't. Yeah, it confuses me now that I'm looking at it. Like those.
Well, it's confusing because the light is not going that way. I'm
Yeah.
so confused.
It could just be like some. I don't know.
Yeah,
Wait, the photographer's in the chat.
Yeah, let us know.
Oh my god, I didn't even.
Yeah, it's weird because it looks like shadow, but at the same time,
and
there's no way that's mud.
It's less modeling tips. I'm not critiquing the model.
We're just confused.
Like it's no. Someone said getting modeling tips from a photo critique. It's not a modeling tip.
Yeah,
it's
somewhat is.
Understanding as a photographer that like you sometimes you need to recognize because they can't see what they look like.
Shadows from the hair.
You see what they look like. So it's shadow from the hair. Oh wow, that's weird.
It's interesting.
So trippy.
Because that lighting really confuses me then. Because like the lighting on one side of her face is coming from this way, but then you got the I don't know. Lighting's weird sometimes. That lighting confuses me. Was this all natural light, or did you use like a bounce or a reflector or a light?
I'm confused.
Yeah, because that's the only way this would make sense. Yeah, I'm like.
Yeah. Or we're gonna be proven wrong, and nature's fucking crazy. Fine.
There might be like a natural reflection from the water. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. Something's bouncing.
Something's bouncing. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait a little bit
there
longer.
Was fill from bounce, they said.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we're not crazy then.
Yeah, I was like, my brain can't comprehend this right now.
It doesn't like hugely bother me in the context of this photo being grungy, but it does feel a little weird. Kind of like now the more I look at this, and this is only the case because I've spent a ton of time looking at this image, but all of her hair kind of being spread out across her chest like that, I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of either. Like I would like that hair to be taking up less space on her body. But that's pretty nitpicky as well. Any final thoughts on this one?
I think you guys really got it covered. I'm like zooming in on the textures of this costume. I'm like, how? Like, wow,
so
it's like so good.
All
right, yeah.
Yeah, it's overall still a very enjoyable photo.
Stellar.
Yeah. Very immersive. I like that a lot.
Okay, let's move on to this next shot. This one is from Elizabeth. Sarah, do you want to take us away here?
Fire Emblem. Okay. First of all, I like the feeling that this photo is giving. I feel like, especially the cosplayer who's cosplaying Xander, which is the character on the right, has like this like really, really intense eye contact with the viewer. I think the way that you captured this is like really, really cool. It has like a very like intense, like sultry look. There's definitely some like, because in Fire Emblem you just marry everyone to everyone, so it's fine. The one thing though is there's like, I like the colors, but there's like this weird like what is the word? Vignette. There's like a vignette going around it that I'm not totally digging. I get that you want the focus to be on the cosplayers, but I think just kind of like to separate them, a good thing to do, or at least to try, is to separate like from the background is to like darken it a bit, and then lighten them up a bit so they're more in focus, like visually speaking. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the vignette. Like I get what you were going for, but not quite doing it for me.
It's just a bit too strong, I think.
Yeah, but it's mostly in the top left that I see it. Like in the grass, it doesn't really. I actually kind of like it in the grass, but yeah, it's like the top left where the sky is. I think because like the dark blue and then compared to the bright, like the light blue is just like so intense. That it's just like that caught my eye pretty much immediately.
I think already the subjects draw the viewer right in with this really, it's already a tight shot. It's already going to be focusing right on them. So you don't have to go that extra mile with the vignette because the subject's making, great eye contact, great model with the viewer. So that was my first thought was get rid of the vignette. Otherwise, like tender moment.
Yeah.
I
kind of.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I was gonna go to Nitpick Town. Is that okay? Okay,
yeah,
I'm going.
I mean,
making my way downtown, walking fast. Strangers pass.
This is only something that I've started picking up actually like recently. Is I've been getting a lot more cognizant of like how hands look in photos. I think because especially in this case, like the cosplay on the right, like you're immediately drawn in, so then your focus is there. I wish that their right hand was posed a little bit more. Like I like that it's relaxed, but like there's like no shape to the hand, so it kind of looks like a baseball mitt. Usually I tell like because I don't know how to explain it very well, like when I'm shooting, but I'll just be like relax your hand, like separate the fingers a little bit, like add a little more like
that's the perfect explanation
to the fingers, just so it doesn't look as like dead fish, for lack of a better term.
What I always do for to kind of get that good hand shape, hand shape, is I tell someone to make a fist and then relax it, open it slowly, and the way that your hand position ends up going, it just naturally, for whatever reason, is this kind of weird like hand shape that looks good, like.
Oh my god, I'm using that forever now.
That's super cool.
It's just like you close it and then you just open it slowly and then stop it like right about here and you just end up with this good hot dog hand.
Another fun thing to do to kind of immerse your subjects in the moment that they're creating is like what I'm gonna assume these two are lovers and they're having a quiet moment in a field. So like have that person actually caress the soft wig fibers. Have them kind of run their hand along their, like, touch each other. You're already touching each other. Put your subject into motion. And keep snapping, and you'll get that moment that's actually genuine and as if they were really doing that, because they are. So instead of maybe trying to create like an artificial hand thing that can look really stale, like after a second, if they're not getting it, then you can just put your subject into motion and that ends up really looking good as well.
Someone, because a couple people have pointed this out and they haven't brought it up, but also it's wanted to bring as well, is like the weird like light coming in from like the trees or something on the left.
Yeah, the top left. It's a weird look there.
I don't know what the hell that is, but I would have just like, clone stamped or content aware fill or whatever. Just delete that shit. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Okay. Couple positives, couple of nitpickies. One, I really, really dig the colors in this photo. It's my favorite part of this photo. Excuse me, by far. For whatever reasons, this is a color combo I wouldn't think would work very well, but it does. Those kind of like vibrant fuchsias, pinks, purples with kind of that warm like yellow greens, like autumnish greens. It works way better than I would think it would work. So I'm loving the colors here. uh, there's the, and then maybe this is the Fire Emblem character, but the kind of color underneath the chin feels real weird to me. But maybe that's just the character. You guys, I didn't know if that was shadow at
no,
first.
I think that's
it's
bouncing.
it's bouncing.
Okay, yeah, that color on the chin, then that's super weird.
It's crazy it bounced that much.
It's very vibrant. I'm not, and then it looks like there was a lot of saturation increasing here, so I think that only heightened that further. So if you are doing that in Photoshop, just kind of erase that saturation there. I mean, personally, I think this is a bit too saturated. I would definitely tone it down. My eyes, quite frankly, kind of hurt looking at the fuchsia scarf. So
yeah, the fuchsia scarf is a little too intense for me. I agree.
Go easy on that a little bit, so that we can sort of enjoy this moment between them and these characters and this narrative, instead of our eyes just continuing to draw to that really vibrant color.
Okay, so we're still on the train and taking us into Nitpick Town. So really watch your sharpening when you're doing this photo.
It seems to be the theme this week.
Unlike the other photo that was before, where like it's everywhere, that's kind of created this unnecessary detail. This kind of feels like the case of like the focus wasn't super great, so you sharpened it a ton, and then changed it so it's just sharpening the details, but the edges on everything just have this real grainy, ugly look to it. It's not needed. Just tone it down. I'll share for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. Whoops. With kind of this very strong sharpening along all the edges here, and it's just not a pleasing look. You don't need to do it, so don't worry about it. Finally is the character with the eye contact. This is a prime example for liquefy tool. Her wig has that real weird bulge
I didn't notice.
And it's given her a weird head shape, and that's just what wigs do because wigs are dumb. But the good news is liquefy tool is really easy, and it's super easy to fix this photo in about
2 seconds.
Yeah, just a couple of seconds. So just grab that liquefy tool, push the top of that wig that's kind of being puckered by the headband. Just push it down, and you're gonna fix that head shape, and you're gonna be great.
Remember, guys, liquefy tool can be used for so many other things besides creating.
Yeah, you're not about
Barbie bodies.
Yeah, you're not about making people skinny with big boobles. That's not all liquefy does.
What?
Yeah, liquefy helps a lot for, like, wigs are freaking stupid, and they're going to make stupid shapes, especially if like, I wouldn't have this problem if I was wearing a wig, but lots of people are cramming lots of hair underneath those wigs, and it's gonna mean that you got lumpy head shape, because where's that hair going? It's going somewhere. It's not just like a black hole up in there. So
the void, just like you take off your wig, it's just the void that's just there.
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah. So wigs are gonna most of the time look a little weird for head shape.
Crazy.
So just feel free to liquefy a little bit.
Also, that being said, sometimes I'll liquefy the wig to add more volume, because by the end of the day, a cosplayer's wig is just gone completely flat, and I just like to poof it up a little bit. Yeah. So it goes both ways. Liquefying is not bad when you use it correctly, people. Just saying.
Can be your friend.
Okay, let's move on to the next shot now that we've covered what to do and not do with liquefy. So this next shot is from Eugene's art, and I think Riley, you are up on this one, I believe, if I'm keeping track right.
Yep.
Yeah, what a beautiful model. I have been meaning to play BioShock Infinite. First of all, pretty cool and convincing photo man-up here. I'm, again, want to reiterate for anyone who's just come into the stream, I'm a very simplistic shooter. I never kind of do any sort of Photoshop trickery. So I always admire when someone's able to pull it off because I'm really bad at it.
Big nerd.
But otherwise, yeah, she's beautiful. I actually, at first, I was like, do I like the direction she's looking in? And, would I want her to maybe look over her shoulder or out ahead of her? But I do like this angle. I like how we can see both of her eyes. As a viewer, it makes me very interested in kind of what she's looking at, which would lead me to continue looking at the photo, which is what you want. So yeah, I really like that about this photo. And is this the part where I say, like, a critique? I forget.
Yeah, go for it. Tear into this. We hate it now.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I would just watch the bokeh in the background on the trees. Definitely noticing like some inconsistencies where that yellowy brown turns into those oversaturated little dots of blue on the borders of the trees, which I know is so tedious. And this is like why I don't like do photo man-ups, because the job is really tedious. But I'd watch that, maybe even take the clone tool and clone out and make your own bokeh in the background where you can cover up those borders that sort of shatter the illusion that you otherwise did a really great job in building. And my last thing would be, I don't know what's happening with the back of her corset, with that light shining right on it. It just doesn't seem cohesive with the rest of the image. So while I appreciate that you're trying to bring out the detail that she put into the construction of it, it ends up again kind of drawing the eye there and being, what's happening here. So maybe just darken that, and instead of wanting to bring that out, because I see that the intentions are good there and you can see a little bit more of the construction of it, but what you're kind of showing off already are those seams. I don't sew. I'm just the photographer, but like the lines and like the bias tape or whatever, I don't know what it's called, but basically you just want to darken that panel. And what's already highlighted are those lines and the curves and, what's kind of building the shape of it. But just darken that panel a little bit, because that's distracting, and that would be it. Otherwise, she's beautiful. I like her expression. Good stuff.
Alexandria Lee makes an interesting comment that I'd like to just repeat is watch yourself when you're placing these stock images. The leaves at the very top, you can kind of see the bleeding into the photo. They're not as like solid as they maybe should be. It's not an egregious example, but figured I'd point it out as well. It's interesting because I feel like I feel like I want the kind of that background stock to be more like bokeh'd out than it is. That would make more sense to me. But I think if you bokeh'd it out anymore, it wouldn't read. So that's why I'm kind of conflicted.
Yeah, I'm complaining about that too, because I feel like there's like this weird imbalance happening for me, and I think it is the manip part. But you're right, you would totally have no idea what the fuck is in the background if it was blurred out anymore. So I don't know.
Nitpick time, just because we're like going like the same path from the last photo. The hair has you need to liquefy this down. Like, it is such a simple fix here. With the way that this section right here is just kind of like popped up here, like it just is a wig being a wig, and you can tame that in liquefy in a couple seconds. So
that's a good point. I actually didn't notice that.
Yeah, it kind of blends in with the leaf at first, but the more you look at it, the more you notice it. I would actually, like, the entire back of the wig, I think, is actually a bit too big, and probably would liquefy it in towards her a bit more too, just because it feels like there's a lot of like wig going on in the back, and the shape's just kind of not particularly great. So like, just cleaning up that shape and making it a little less voluminous in the back would probably help. I really dig the leading line, or the line that leads you into the subject of this image, though. Like, just
I love it.
It's got
great
like
choice.
Very strong angles in this photo. It's interesting because there's really only like the one like solid angle, but I feel like it sections off this image enough that it just kind of feels right. in terms of that.
Yeah, you can either hit or miss with something like that, but I do like how it's just right. It's not too much, it's not too little. Just right.
But
I think that's what's throwing me off about this photo is the angle and perspective of everything that is like real doesn't quite match the perspective of the thing that was manipulated. Because the thing that was manipulated into the background looks like it's like a straight on like view of something, which I think like it's hard because like what if it really is located there? I mean, like in real life, which I mean, whatever. So it is possible, but I think honestly that's what's throwing me off a little bit. Again, that's like nitpicky, and I can't like manip to save my life because it's hard and I'm lazy.
Don't do that. No.
Anyway,
yeah,
I think it's the perspective. That's just something I've learned from like from Neil or Mason Hikari photo because he always says Kyoto. Because he's always talking about making sure that like the perspective and the angles make sense, and that's really what helps make a photo manip like work really, really well. Because if that's off, then it kind of just like throws the whole balance off of the photo. So I think that's what it is. I actually don't really have a lot to say about this photo because I really like it.
The colors are the best thing on this photo though to me.
Yeah,
like
I love
the light blues with the golds. In fact, I would almost maybe bring some of those like either golds or blues into the shadow of the wall there. Maybe brighten that a little bit and bring some of that color into that to help it pop a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be nice. I also really like this like that blur look that they got going on, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Where specifically?
No, like the overall photo feels like
it's
soft.
just it's
little
soft.
ethereal. Yeah.
I like
ethereal.
that. We haven't said that in so long.
Guys. It's been a while.
Yeah. I actually, now that I'm zooming in on it, really great facial retouching.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Really pretty.
Yeah, skin retouching is great.
Yeah, it's great job.
Although Nitpick Town, I would have just cloned out that piece of hair that's like literally going into her eyeball. But other than that, because you can't see it when it's small, so on Instagram it don't matter. But yeah. Anyway.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's definitely difficult to sort of create this illusion when you have the trickiness of the trees and the light coming through the trees, and you have to continue to keep up that illusion throughout all of these spaces that you have in between all these leaves. So I guess, my lasting piece of advice would just be to the borders of the leaves, like kind of with that teal looking border around them. Maybe just clone those out with other bokeh from the tree. But otherwise, great job.
Awesome. You guys ready to move on to the next shot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Skip.
Oh God, this is.
God damn it!
This is Felix. Do we have to, guys?
Is he even here? Probably not.
Felix, are you here?
Wave
your hand if you're here, Felix.
I'm gonna check fate.
Oh, dang it, he's here. Oh no. Oh no, now we can't shit all over him.
No, he literally said, please skip. Skip.
Okay. It was a decent photo, like it's all right.
Oh, are we actually skipping?
No.
No, we're giving him shit. We have
shit we love Felix. That's why, we're being tsundere or something like that. Because, whatever. Let's move it. Okay, a photo. We're critiquing photos. I really, really like the flare in this shot. It's got that good gold tone. It got that
good. Little dust too. It's good shit. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. No, I really like that aspect of the photo, but kind of on that same feeling, man, Felix, you're so close to centering this photo. You are so close to having this photo with this subject centered, but she's not centered, and I'm like, Felix, what are you doing, man? Just give that a little crappy crop, that the centering of this image is just driving me bonkers because it's so close to being centered, but it's not. Newsflash, I'm incredibly anal when it comes to this stuff, so if you guys are just like, freaking take a chill pill, Andrew, yeah, probably should, but too bad I haven't
noticed
I've been taking my
already.
chill pills today, so I'm gonna lay in about this. Give us a little bit of crop there. It's like you maybe need to take it in like an inch to the, on the right. Like it doesn't need much to be centered.
To be fair, though, every time we bring this up, it's always when something is almost centered. Because honestly, when it's so close, it actually looks worse than if you just hadn't centered the person at all, but wanted them to be centered. If that makes any sense. It's like you're almost there, and then you're like, fuck, this is like 5 pixels off. So it can be more noticeable. Anyway.
No Dutch anal, guys. That's not how that works. No.
Get me out of here! I'm leaving.
Yeah, it's time to end the stream. Sorry, guys. This is over now.
Oh my god.
Closing it down. So I think, like, overall, I really like the mood that's created by this image, but I think because it's such a simplistic image, in terms of framing, it's simple, it's clean, it's got that nice flare, that it kind of falls onto a lot of other aspects of the image, and that's kind of where this image feels a little weaker to me. Right off the bat, there's the posing, kind of with the body so straight. One arm is completely cut off from the camera. The other arm, kind of the way that the hood is falling off the shoulder, doesn't kind of create like a really good flow to the image in terms of like her body shape. There's just lots of little tweaks that I would go in the pose to kind of make things work a little bit better. And maybe like her hand that's up by her chest, I'd like the elbow back a little bit further. And then turn her torso a bit more towards us so that we can get a little bit of that other arm into the frame. Also, I know this is probably hard to do because it looks like it was a little bit of a windier day, but you've got that one strand of wig hair that's going right across her lips, which is not a particularly great look here. Sorry, I just kind of went off with a bunch of nitpicks right in a row.
I have a nitpick that Felix would hate.
Do it. There's still more nitpicks to this image, by the way.
I'm gonna say it anyway. Only because I really think it would help this photo. Because the setting for Ancient Magus Bride is so like it's just nature everywhere, and you're so close, but then you see, because it's clearly at Colossal Con, also because I can see the signs in the grass, but regardless of that, you can see that like brick building in the background. I would have duplicated some of the trees on the right, and then to cover it up on the left, because honestly, like I'm kind of just like cropping in like tighter so that's just like out of the photo right now. That already looks so much better, and it's actually a pretty easy fix. Like I would just duplicate it and then like kind of mask in where it works. And then at the same time, because I mentioned like this like white stuff that's, I don't know what that is, clone that out too, so that's not there, because that would really it would change the environment of this photo so much, and it would work so well for the series. So
I think as well, having this horizontal does very little for the image, because what you are capturing here is this beautiful light and her kind of haloed in it, and I love that. This is like my favorite kind of lighting. I mean, so many people's favorite kind of lighting, but all these issues that we're pointing out wouldn't even need to be relevant if you shot it vertically, which I think would have created a stronger image and more focused on her. Whereas we're looking at all of this other stuff in the image that isn't relevant to the narrative. So that's what I think. And actually, I guess the placement of her wig fiber is a bit unfortunate, but I like this windswept look. And maybe color-wise, this is whenever I have an image like this with this kind of lighting, and this is just personally, like stylistically, like it's fun to kind of go in and accentuate that with like some blues and some magentas, sort of heighten that fantastical sort of magic hour feel. Otherwise, I do like her pose, and I just think that having it horizontal doesn't do it any sort of favors. So that's what I would have done.
The last nitpicky thing I'm going to mention is a nitpicky thing you probably can't do anything about as a Sony shooter. But you're getting those weird, subtle horizontal lines in the image if you zoom in. And it's just always weird to me. Like, I think it's something weird about like the autofocus on the sensor, and when you have background. Look, I'll screen share so that people can know.
I feel
what
like
I'm
I
talking
don't
about.
see it.
Oh, you'll see it when I zoom in here. They get all these little horizontal.
Give me like
lines.
it's like a 15-second delay.
It's a decent lag.
Yeah. That's life though. I don't know. It's bad, but there you should be able to see it by now.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so you're getting these horizontal lines here, and that's a Sony thing.
That's
Really?
different.
And
my God.
obviously
Oh, whoa! Now I can see it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know why that totally happens, but I don't know. Maybe pay attention to that. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it. And when you're viewing it like full screen, you're never gonna see that. So like.
And also, why is it only in like that one section?
Has something to do with the sensor and like I think like the
Light?
autofocus system on the chip, and it's picking up the lines of the autofocus. Athel says
wild.
turn off EFCS and it goes away for Sony shooters. So apparently listen to Athel. He says turn
Athel
off
knows what he's saying.
EFCS. Electric first curtains shutter, Kelvin detailed. So that's good to know, because it is a weird little thing that happened, and you're not going to notice it when it's full screen, but man, if you can fix it without having to do anything, hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Interesting. Huh.
Okay. Now that we spent a ton of time on that, let's move on
Moving
to
on.
the next shot.
Goodbye,
the
Felix.
the shot that we skipped, quote unquote. All right. Let's move on to this next one. And speaking of Kelvin, because I just saw him in the chat, this one is also is from Kelvin. So we're getting lots of people that are hanging out in the chat tonight, which is awesome.
Hello, friends.
Sarah, do you want to start off? I think that's Sarah. Yeah, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fate. Except it's fate go. So I don't know shit. Anyway. I love the pose and the composition of this photo, because that flag, that movement that you got on it is like so incredibly cool. Because I feel like a lot of the times when we flip things for photos, it looks like you can tell that someone was there to flip it, but this one for some reason just feels so natural. And I really like that. And I really actually like the cosplayer's pose because she feels very sassy. And from the little that I know about Fate Go a little bit, this character is very sassy. She can be very sassy. So I appreciate her bringing that forward in the pose. And also the colors are this is a really interesting color toning. It makes me think it's like in the fall, but I want to say it's in the fields at Colossal Con, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I love the color toning that's in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All about
it's
this.
so nice. Like the fact that you made like we kind of brought this up in the Fire Emblem one too, is like the fact that you got like these like salmony pinks and like oranges to work together. My brain is like, what the fuck? How do you
Galaxy brain at that? Yeah.
Yeah, because like me and warm colors don't get along very well. Like I just don't know how to like do it at all. So when I see these kinds of like analogous colors working well together, I'm like, how'd you do that? So I think that's really super, super nice. So yeah, those are my first thoughts.
Yeah, I really love the softness that you achieved in the landscape here. That's so enjoyable. I see that in so many Colossal Con photos, and I just love that. Even though it would be super itchy to roll around in, it just makes me want to like roll around in this field.
Oh no, God no.
No.
You don't want to do that
unless you want to like
don't
die.
I die at Colossal Con
but
every year.
It looks so soft. No, but
Soft.
it looks so soft. Yeah. So I guess one thing that is jumping out at me right away is her face shape.
Yeah.
What happened here?
Yeah.
This is this strange shadowing, or is this very tricky liquefy?
I don't know what's going on, but the face
something's
shape weirds
going
me
on
out
here.
And maybe it's the wig is kind of like doing some weird things too, based on how it's
I don't know. I'm
overlapping.
zooming in, and it looks like liquefy, but I don't know. It's just that's what it looks like.
Yeah, because it feels like the one side of her face and the other don't kind of match up. Like the one side feels almost like larger and the chin is lower. Like it just doesn't read
It's something
right.
super wonky here.
And it'd be interesting, Calvin, if you could tell us if that was liquefy or if that's just kind of how the shot came out.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that would
and also
be interesting.
what Reshki said, which zooming out because I was zoomed in, it's just like a little nitpicky, but like the wig bang going over her brow and then kind of leading into her eyeliner, her winged eyeliner. Zoomed out, it looks a little obstructive to the full eyeball experience that we might want to achieve by getting both of those eyes viewed. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. That I think that is honestly the biggest part of this image that kind of throws me off here. Also, this is something I know I kind of have talked to Calvin about before, and he's taken advice on this. So I think the eyes kind of feel like they don't line up, and it's probably the case of contacts being slightly off from each other. Like, and at full screen you're not really noticing it. It's more of a zoomed in thing. But one contact feels like it's looking a bit more to the left than the other. So I'd maybe try and clone one contact or like one eye into the other and keep them looking consistent. That might help a little bit. I spent about 30 seconds in liquefy to kind of see if I could help that face shape a little bit. Just a little bit. Calvin said it was a slightly open mouth that they tried to fix with dodge and burn and maybe liquefy. I don't know, but I just spent like a quick second in liquefy, and I think that helped a lot, especially when you're viewing it, at full screen. You're not like really getting deep in there. I also think part of the reason it feels weird is the luminance level. The face feels much darker than any other parts of skin on her body.
Yeah.
So you really
I couldn't
need
figure
to
out what it was.
brighten
Yeah.
up that face a little bit. Like the color tones are about the same. It's just the luminance values that are really kind of a lot darker on her face. So if you could just give that a little pop of brightness there, it probably is gonna help a lot.
Sure. I'm not sure if I'm the only one thinking. Although the flag toss is really great and there's a lot of great motion.
Apparently
and
it's
It's
natural.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry, natural flag movement, but the composition just feels a little off. With my eyes going along this line of the pole, and then we've got kind of this gap on the other side with her hand. I just wish that I could see a little bit more of what's happening, especially if it is natural and you're not trying to crop out, your
Human.
assistant flag tosser. That's just the one little thing that's bothering me. Otherwise, I love the toning in this. It's very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe even if you just zoomed it out, that would help with the composition of this frame a little bit. Let's see. Any other thoughts on this one before we move on to the next shot?
I'm good.
All
I'm
right,
all
cool.
set.
Let's go on to the next one. This one is from Jipri. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but it's the pronunciation you're getting. Riley, do you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, this is really cool. I like all of the movement that's happening here. It's a really thoughtful image. I also like the sometimes it can look a little cheap adding the flower petals in there, but I actually think this really works, especially with the fact that she's got her scarf, blowing in the wind or what have you. And the background setting, is that like added in post is kind of this cherry blossom and the petals. Was the original photo just like her and this like kind of hyper focused grass that we're seeing is what I'd like to know.
I think the mountain in the background
just the tree
is real. It's just
It's
it's
real.
just like the
tree.
cherry blossom
Okay.
tree that's photoshopped in.
Cool.
Interestingly enough, I actually don't think it's it's not the cherry blossom tree that's photoshopped in. It's literally only the blossoms on the tree are photoshopped in.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
Are those
do.
facts?
Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow, the hills are alive with the sound of this cosplay. Beautiful. I like also, I don't know why, but lately I'm a huge sucker for profile shots, and this model has a beautiful profile. So I'm liking that overall it feels like, a very fantastical, thoughtful sort of image, but it's got that element of movement in it, which keeps you interested instead of just sort of a static photo of someone with their eyes closed, looking off, and there's, like the scarf were down or something. So it was a great original photo that you chose to bring and to edit. I feel like it looks a little bright, and I would really love to see you darken it and sort of, especially in the sky and like her wig, or their wig rather, just kind of playing with the shadows and midtones, because it does feel a little bit overexposed. And that's what I would start with. What do you guys think?
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Is this the same person who submitted the Hoseki photo last week?
I will have to double check that with you, but give me a second here.
It's like deja vu.
I don't think so, but hold on, give me like a hot second here.
Well, while you're looking at that,
no, it isn't. The person that submitted the Hoseki one last week was the one that we opened up with this week. The like upside down photo. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's damn. Okay. Anyway, what I was gonna say is kind of like what I said last week, which was right now, like the color. I feel like the color of like the flowers, like the cherry blossoms, and the rest of the photo don't quite match for me. Especially when you're like adding them in as like a manipulation, just to make sure that those color tones are matching up. Because right now they feel very separated. So I would just play around with that more.
Thought to instantly make this photo better in like a couple seconds. 16:9 this photo.
Yes, please.
This has so much headspace, and you don't really need it. It's not like adding a lot to this photo. I think you crop this down, it's gonna have a lot more appeal to it. So you can get the head on a third, so it kind of the frame feels a little bit more balanced, and then the mountains are going to be on the other third. It's just going to bring a lot more balance to this photo compositionally. I also think the pose, like, while I like it in concept, just I feel like in terms of how this is, and I know it's windy, so it's going to be hard, but I feel like her torso just is all cosplay fabric and not a lot of like ability to understand what's there. Like, you can't see her arm that's on top of the sword. You can barely make that out, like, and just kind of like her body just feels like it's just like, this isn't supposed to sound as bad as it does, but just kind of like a clump of clothing is kind of how I feel it is. There's not a lot of defined motion to it. It's very straight up and down. It's just, yeah. So I would very much try and take careful notion of where you're posing and how it's affecting the image. Like, I know you want the hand right underneath the sword like that because it makes sense for drawing it. But then maybe what you want to do is shift that pose back so that the arms shifted back more, and it just kind of feels you're getting kind of that elbow pointing backward, and then you can have that turns the torso a bit more, and that means the other arm can be a little bit more forward. It just would bring a lot more shape to her torso and make it look the pose look a lot more dynamic.
Also, zooming in on the profile, there's definitely a line of disconnect with a burn tool or a lighten. There's this strange border right underneath her lower lip down to her chin and even like the bridge of her nose. That's
It's actually on the whole outline of her.
Is it?
Yeah, I can see it on like her nose, and it goes down to like whatever, like the Cupid's bow. And
oh no,
yeah.
I saw. Yes, I thought you meant like her whole costume. No, yeah, there's
no.
There's something that just got overlooked, and so I would go back and just try and get rid of that line, because you're creating a great narrative here, but you want to trick your viewer into believing it. There's something. So, go ahead.
No, that was a weird echo that just happened there. That was you. I don't know why that echo came through. That was funky. But yeah, no, I would agree with that. Like,
was that me? Sorry, who echoed?
Yeah, I think that was you echoing. Whatever.
Oh. Sorry, guys. I don't know what
Whatever.
I'm doing.
Not a big deal. But yeah, I'd try and just clean up that as well. It's weird because I don't know what's causing it, because I don't think the sky's photoshopped in.
One other thing that my eye just keeps getting drawn to is there's this sharpness to the grass that's right behind her that I feel like I'm not getting from the subject. And then you've got these really blurred petals in the foreground and the background, and then you've got the blurred landscape in the background. So I'm really not sure what I'm supposed to be focused. I mean, I know what I'm supposed to be focused on, but I'm not focusing on what you want me to. And so I think maybe adding some blur to those really sharp, long, tall, grassy boys would be helpful, because those petals look like super blurred in the background on the once barren tree that you added those petals to. And so it's just like we've kind of got this. The subject doesn't feel completely in focus. Am I wrong? I'm zooming in on it, and it looks like there's a strange sharpened filter.
Yeah,
no, I agree.
It's not totally sharpened, especially compared to the background.
Yeah, there's a lot of mishmash of different focus points and blurred points and different intensities of each. So you want to be focused. If you want the viewer to focus on just your subject, and you kind of want to like, listen, whenever I do like photo man-ups, I won't even add like petals to a tree. I don't even go that far. But if I were, I'd want to be like, okay, I want to like kind of blur this out so that like no one really looks at this, because like it's not, what I want everyone to focus on. So like I'd kind of bring that focus right to the subject and just make the petals and the grass just like a suggestion in the atmosphere. But that would conclude it. But just like blur over those grassy boys.
I like them being grassy boys.
The grassy boys.
I think with that we are going to be done with this shot, and we're going to take a very short break here for 5 minutes. When we are going to be back, we are going to be doing our Q&A. So while we're gone, think of some questions that you want to ask us, and we will be back in 5. Welcome back. Thanks everyone for waiting. It's time for a Q&A. Before we jump into that, a couple things that I want to mention that I didn't mention up front. Just want to keep on being annoying and harping on this. If you think we're doing something cool and have the ability to, if you'd like to give us a donation, it would help a ton. We'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you have been gifted a sub to this channel, I know a handful of you guys have been. Apparently, right now, because of Twitch's Subtober, you can renew your sub, which is normally $5 for $1. So if you had a sub that was gifted to you, that would be awesome to renew because, hey, it's $1. Why not, right? So consider that if you were gifted a sub, or consider gifting someone a sub so they can do that. That would be awesome. Okay, let's get into the Q&A. Someone who has who I'm just shortening it because my brain can't think of how to pronounce the rest of that. Asks a very interesting question that says, as a solo photographer, how can you room with people at hotels and cons? And I think that's probably the question of, like, you know, if you don't know someone at a con, or you don't have necessarily connections, how do you find those connections in terms of going to a con maybe you haven't been before? I don't know if you guys have specific thoughts on that, but generally speaking, my rule of thumb is, like, if I can't get a room with friends that I know and I'm going to be very comfortable with going, I'm pretty much not going.
Also, Andrew and I are old people, and
Yeah.
we're very picky. Like, I don't like party rooms. I like getting some kind of, like, substantial amount of sleep. Also, messy people, can't stand that, even though I'm a slob in real life. But when it comes to cons, like, my shit is, like, on lockdown. That shit is clean.
Yeah, no,
We're
for
picky.
real.
Yeah, I'm an old dude, and I'm like, young kids, parties are
I gotta
terrible.
go to bed at 9.
I want to go to sleep.
Yeah,
Shakes
that
cane.
coupled with, like, depending on the amount of shoots that you have booked, and, like, it really is important to get a good night's sleep. Otherwise, like, you might not be your best for the people who are paying you for your time. And that happened to me at Katsucon for the first night. Is I didn't get any sleep because someone in my room was snoring, and that's fine, but I wasn't aware of that, and I could not sleep. And so the anxiety
Sound the
of, like,
alarms.
the anxiety of, like, okay, I have, like, eight shoots tomorrow, and it's, like, now 3 a.m. and then you look at it, like, it is now 3:30 a.m. It is now 4 a.m. and, like, that anxiety just, like, building up. I ended up not sleeping and kind of not being my best for the people who pay, you know, the Katsukan prices to work with me. So it was, you know, I always try to be like, does anyone in their room snore? Or, you know,
Also,
kind
to
of
be
acting
fair, if
like a
you
princess.
snore, you should warn the room ahead of time. Thank you.
I forgot to start the timer, guys. Oh no, how will we ever know? We're just gonna start 10 minutes now. Lol.
Yeah, Alex, like, that was rough. But I ended up moving to a different room. But for me, rooming at cons can kind of be, like, very anxiety ridden because each con for me is a complete gamble. And sometimes I just wish that I could bring a car and do an Airbnb and just be by myself because I'm an only child. And I never had to, like, really share space before. So, like, I get to be a real friggin' princess about stuff, but I don't have a car. So, you know, you kind of just got to gamble. And sometimes it sucks. So that didn't really answer your question.
That's fine. Someone asked earlier, sorry I missed who it was, specifically towards you, Riley, and maybe you can elaborate on this. It was about, you said something on Twitter about that you shoot in JPEG instead of RAW.
Yeah.
And,
sure. So elaborating on that a little bit is, for me, I read a really interesting article that I can link in the chat in a bit. But for me, it really slows down, quickens my turnaround time in my workflow. And additionally, I feel like saying this, like, called out, first of all, whoever said this, because, like, everyone's gonna have an opinion, and I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying this is the way that I prefer to shoot. Is for me, I never have needed to take advantage of the information that a RAW provides. And if my JPEG is so blown out or underexposed that I would need a RAW in order to bring that information out, I shouldn't be using that photo to begin with, and that it should be a scrapped photo to begin with. So although I've heard a lot of the time that, RAW is the way to shoot for me, in cosplay, I shoot in JPEG because of the volume of shoots that I have in a day, the amount that I'm shooting. It ends up slowing or quickening that editing process, that culling process. And apparently, no, I haven't really started shooting RAW until very recently with weddings, which is definitely, something that even I even shoot RAW plus JPEG to be able to be like, okay, if this JPEG is really screwed up and I totally blew out the kiss or something, I would want to bring in that RAW and bring out that information that I lost with the JPEG. But even then, I've been shooting weddings all summer and I haven't needed to take advantage of that. So it just ends up really slowing down, clogging up. I just find it to be a more streamlined editing experience for me.
Totally understand that. Could not fathom shooting in JPEG at this point in my life.
I've always
whatever works for you, I'd say go for it.
It worked, yeah, and I feel like that's usually the response I would get would be everyone's like, that works for you, I'm not going to touch on that, and that's fine.
It's interesting because, yes, the dynamic range that RAW brings is a big help, but for me, honestly, it's the ability to adjust the white balance that is really powerful to me with RAW.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Also, Miss Mallow make it easier for me, so I'm like, whatever.
Miss Mallow just said I just hate that JPEG adjusts things. For me, those adjustments that JPEG makes are so subtle to me that I would make them anyway right away with the RAW. So that's what doesn't bother me essentially about JPEG and shooting in that. So yeah, I mean, I called out, but I definitely did talk on Twitter about why I shoot in JPEG and how it just
it's interesting because it really just is a case of it's a pure speed benefit.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't believe now that I'm shooting weddings and I'm shooting 3,000 images a day, and I'm doing it in RAW and JPEG. It's just I'm buying so much online storage space. I'm buying so many hard drives. I'm wasting so much time. I feel like going through culling in Lightroom, waiting for things to load, and my MacBook is screaming at me. And I'm like, if I had just shot it in JPEG, this wouldn't be an issue. But everyone's telling me I should shoot it in RAW. So I'm giving it a try. All right, but
there's really no right or wrong answer in my opinion. It depends on what your job is, what your workflow is, what you're comfortable with. I mean, this can get in a whole other discussion. So, I mean, if you're good at what you do and you can work Photoshop and Lightroom well, at the end of the day, it doesn't really fucking matter.
Yeah, and if I'm just gonna go quiet for a minute while I find that article and link that in the
I want to read that.
Yeah.
So let's jump on to the next question. Here is, what makes a difficult client?
I can go off on this.
Besides
PTSD.
Communication, but honestly, communication is the biggest one.
Because communication is what leads to all the problems. It's if you just told me X, Y, and Z, not 3 minutes before our shoot was gonna start, I wouldn't be pissed that you're late. You know what I mean?
It's hard because I honestly do most of my shooting for free, in terms of cosplay photos. So I've literally only shot paid shoots at cons twice. So all those other cons, I don't think of those people as clients so much as collaborators. So I'm never worried about the client. I'm just no, we're working on this together, and so it's never been I've never really had a huge difficulty on anything outside of communication, and even then it's never been all that bad. And it's also communication. The things that have made for the most awkward experiences for me is when there's been poor communication during the shoot, which is to say not on my part, but usually when the cosplayer is not responding to anything, and they're like quiet the entire shoot, and I'm like, I don't know how to read you. That's the worst.
For me, what makes a difficult client difficult? Honestly, I find so many cosplayers are so easy to work with because they're so excited to collaborate. They're really into the process. They love having their fucking picture taken. Y'all love the camera. So, like, you're easy to photograph, easy to direct, easy to work with. But what makes it difficult and what makes me upset and sad and pissed is when I'm just gonna keep going. Like, actually,
Oh
it just
my
I'm just
God.
pisses me off.
Mallow threw it in the chat when people don't credit
is-
you. Ooh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also like I just watermark my images, but that's just me.
Still doesn't help.
But like for me, it's when you're late and you're not telling the photographer you're late, and for me, and I know that Andrew, you said that you don't do a. Did you say you don't do a lot of paid shoots at conventions? Is that correct?
yeah, I don't really do paid
Okay.
shoots.
So I exclusively do paid shoots with maybe the exception of like one or two, like I might drag Jay Hart off in front of a bush and photograph him for like 10 minutes. But otherwise, when clients are late and it's like my shoots are 20 minutes long. If you're 15 minutes late, we've got 5 minutes to shoot. And, yes, I understand. Like, you wouldn't have booked me had you not known all this. Everyone knows this ahead of time, but there's still that guilt as a photographer of like, oh, you paid me X amount of dollars, and like now we only have 5 minutes to shoot. And it makes me feel like I should give them more time, even though I stated clearly what the volume of shoots are. Often they're back to back. There's a time constraint. And at this point, you should just be aware, how long does it take me to get ready? Add 45 minutes to that. If there's armor, add an hour and a half. I don't care what time
Also,
it is
don't
you're
forget
getting ready.
transportation time. Like, don't tell me you're gonna be there in 15 minutes when you 45 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
it always makes me feel like a terrible human being when like I've only had this happen once, is where someone's flat out missed the shoot, and they missed out, they lose their down payment, and like it's not that much, but I still feel bad, and I don't want to be in that situation anymore. Lots of I know some photographers are like, hey, free money, but I'm just like, that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm interested in. So now I just feel guilty, like I took money from you, even though that's not how this went. Because
I personally have never had anyone use a filter on my images, but also earlier in the chat, Andrew asked me kind of what advice I would give to cosplay photographers, and that would be again to make your policies extremely explicit. And I am very no nonsense in my policies. If you do this, if you do this, if you do this, I will be giving you a warning, and I will ask you to take the photo down, and you are not allowed to do this. And like basically, I don't let people book with me unless they read that. And so like, that way, if that does ever happen, I don't feel bad at all for being like, hey, like,
no, that's why I don't feel bad anymore. It's like my contract before you sign up is so explicit that it literally, if you screw up, like I don't feel bad because it's like it was right there. It would take you 5 minutes to read it. Like it's nothing. And like another thing, just to kind of go off of this like whole contract thing, is like something that's been happening to me like the past few cons with bookings is that people will try to negotiate something out of me if they're late. Like, oh, can you reschedule? And I'm like, no, if you're over, like I have a very strict like 15-minute rule. Like if you're late, like it's canceled. Like I've had to cancel shoots before because people were late, like whatever. But sometimes I'll get messages being like, hey, like I'm sorry we missed our shoot. Like, can we make it up at a different con? And like that's kind of just not how it works. So it's like what bugs me is like they try is to apologize, but then they're also trying to get something else out of it, which I don't really appreciate.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just kind of like rubs me the wrong way. Makes me feel like you're not really respecting my time.
Exactly.
So I don't like that. If I'm late to a shoot, that's fucking on me. Then it's it's on me to like make it up to you. But if you are the person who is late or who is whatever, that's on you. That's literally not on me.
One thing I wanted to say, just calling out YGK's comment in the chat. Yes. Am I the only one that's totally fine with cosplayers putting filters over my photo? And really, honestly, it just depends. Like, man, like I spend an hour plus, usually
Stream
around
froze
2 hours
Twitch.
per image. So, like,
And the stream froze on
oh
Twitch.
no, it looks like it's going fine on my end. Maybe it's just you, Sarah.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I'm
watching it from Facebook.
Oh, it's good. Oh, it's
yeah,
good
I'm not
now.
dropping
It's
it
good
in
now.
front. But what I was gonna say is, yeah, it all depends because like I've spent like a lot of time trying to get the colors and everything and exactly how I want it to. And when someone goes and puts a filter over my photo, what they're telling me is I don't care about the hard work you put into this photo. I just want to make this look flashy and pop on Instagram. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a really great photo. And when people do that, it's like, hey, yeah, that's cool that you took my photo and spent all this effort in this, but I don't really like it that much. Like, I wanted to change it because this wasn't
I'm so
quite
sorry
right.
this happens to you guys. That's so
It
that's so
hasn't
rude.
happened often.
But it does
happen. And if you're fine with it, that is totally fine. But
exactly what Mala said.
Yeah,
if you don't like something about the image, then tell the photographer. But also, like when you're hiring that photographer, you should hire them because you like their style.
You like
and
their aesthetic.
If you just need someone to take a picture for you, then don't find someone who puts a lot of time into their editing. And you can ask ahead of time, hey, is it cool if I edit them myself? Which is rare, I think. But I think a lot of photographers coming onto the scene would be down for that. But more established ones who are working on cultivating a style and a reputation wouldn't be so keen on it. I certainly wouldn't want anyone to touch my images, and I make that super clear.
Yeah, no, that's totally the case. And once again, like if you're fine with it, that is totally a-okay. But it's also something you should never assume. Someone like a cosplayer should never assume that you're okay.
So I always try to put it in the perspective of like other creative facets within the community, because I think because like photography is a different medium and people don't know as much about it, they think that it's okay. So like an equivalent like I like to think of is like, let's say I commission like Riley, for example, like, hey, can you make this cosplay from Final Fantasy 9 or something? And like if she made it for me, like in a very specific like style, let's say she made it like
a Hannah Alexander or something, right?
No, like more cartoony. So like really true to like Final Fantasy 9's aesthetic.
Okay,
so then I paid her all this money and then she put all this time into it, like considering the materials and all that shit. And then I get it. And then I'm like, oh fuck this. I want to make it more like Sakizo. And then without her consent, I've taken her work and I just like...
Oh my gosh.
Heidi just rolls like, in with no chill, just gifting those subs.
You get a sub, and you get a sub, and you get a sub. Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah. Heidi.
Hell yeah, Heidi. Appreciate that crazy hype you're bringing to the chat. Everyone spam those Dutch angles.
How do I do that? How do I? Hold on.
You're just like, what?
There,
what do?
There it is. There it is.
Oh. Yes.
And like I said before, and this
Dutch anal surprise.
Sorry, anal. God damn it! If you have been gifted, and now there is substantially more people that have been gifted subs than actually have gotten subs by themselves. September on Twitch allows you to re-up your sub for continue a gifted sub for another month for $1. So if I would please urge you to consider doing that, because it's really cheap and we end up getting all the benefits from it. We still get the full benefit like you'd given us a normal sub. So it's a very inexpensive way for you guys to help us out. So if you've been gifted a sub, please consider re-upping it for that next month.
Oh yeah, I'm re-upping the September. I got you.
Awesome.
Cool. But just to end that one comment, that I feel like a question that we enjoyed a lot, ranting therapy time. Yeah, it's for me, it's tardiness, and like if my
Tartness
shoots,
is huge.
it is, but also if you're gonna be late, please tell me, because you don't know. I might actually have a 30-minute break in between shoots, and I could accommodate your lateness. But at the same time, before now, I could have been shooting for 4 hours, and I could really use a snack. And I'm here sitting like waiting for you for 20 minutes, and you're like, "Sorry, elevator trouble." I'm like, "Well, I could have been getting a snack this whole time, and then I could have just met you like afterwards." So like, just communicate. Just communicate.
Like more than 15 minutes ahead of time. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna be late. Like even if you think you're not gonna be late, sometimes you're like, I'm gonna be late, and then I end up just not being, and then it's like whatever. But like, please just tell us. I hate wasting time and sitting and doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like that. It's disrespectful. Anyway.
Okay, we have a critique to do, guys. We've been on this. We went overtime on that Q&A, but that's fine. It was a fun time. So with that, let's transition back over to the critique. So let's see. We are picking up here. This is photo number 9, and not to be confused with Mambo number 9. This is
number 5.
I don't know. It'd be weird. Okay. Let's jump into this shot from Lou, who's a constant submitter. So I'm pretty sure this shot's from this past KatsuCon. I mean, everyone knows that location, and I'm pretty sure that snow was from that like brief period that we had snow at Katsu. Yeah, and this is nice. I like it. I'm a sucker for snow in photos, so and the fact that you managed to do it with a cosplayer that's all like almost all white with their cosplay is just really awesome. I like that approach a lot. I like those muted colors, those deeper desaturated greens. Just so you guys with the playing the drinking game, I will say mallow greens.
I mean, this is like the epitome of mallow green.
Yeah, they work really well, and just kind of the vibe of the photos really nice. There are some things about this photo that are driving me nuts, and the one that is screaming at me though is,
I already know where you're going.
Yeah, I think everyone probably knows, is this snowflake that's fallen down right across the face, and it's so noticeable and so distracting to this shot. It's not like, it's not an easy necessarily Photoshop job. Like, this isn't one where you're like, 2 seconds to fix, but it's doable. It's not too bad,
and it's worth it.
And you kind of need to do it for this shot. It is so, I think, glaring in this photo that it really, like, just this one little blotch really kind of changes the way I feel about this shot a lot. And if you could just retouch it, I think it would help improve the feel quite a bit. So yeah,
I think because it's the only like large snowflake that's like in the foreground and out of focus. Like maybe if you like didn't have, like if you had to deliver this by, didn't have time to like, really retouch the face area, like maybe try and emulate some other additional like foreground snow elements, just so it's not like the only one in the photo. That also could work. Maybe, I don't know, but preferably would not like it on the
I spent all of like a couple seconds just as like a real quick attempt to see what it would look like without, and it took me like with the healing brush tool about like this is not a great job, but it was only a couple seconds. But I do think it really helped the image read better if you just Photoshop it out. I would really urge you to do that.
Well, I think the color grading is, like everyone else said, absolutely fantastic. I am bothered by a couple things in this image. Either show the whole antler on that left that's curving up, or show the whole elbow. I think that also this would have been a stronger image if it were vertical. There's some rule of thirds that gets a little bit boring for me. There's just a lot of the same snowy Katsukan bush. I also think the subject looks really uncomfortable. And despite the fact this is a beautiful costume and beautiful toning, again, love the moodiness of it. I really like the jewel tones that you're playing up in the background. I just think this is a strange moment that you chose to edit. She looks really uncomfortable, half blinking or
With how
squinty.
cold it was, probably actually uncomfortable.
Right,
Probably.
but I think this was the wrong moment to choose to edit. Otherwise, agree with all the great things about her makeup some point. Again, like, I've got color grading envy, but I think it was just the wrong moment that you chose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the composition for me isn't quite doing it. Like, everything is, at least for me, is very, like, it's like almost like split in half, actually. You have like all the white from the costume and the cosplayer like on the left, and then the other half is like all of the green. I feel like even if she had just stepped forward, or if the photographer had just moved to the left a little bit more, so it wasn't so like 50-50, I think it would have been a little stronger.
I also think it's the like the look, and I mean that of like the eye direction of the cosplayer. I feel like there's that kind of like squint and looking off in the distance. It kind of doesn't read well. This is the kind of shot where like I really wish you had them making eye contact with the camera. I think
would have
that
been
would change
so
the feeling
stunning.
of this image
Very
a lot.
striking, yes. Especially with the nature of her makeup, I think that would prove to be even more striking, if she were making eye contact with the viewer. But although the color grading is nice, yeah, I think that perhaps just the wrong moment. She just looks very hunchy, and I understand that it's cold, but cosplayers, if they're going out in the snow,
Roll those
I
shoulders
know
back.
and have seen that
Just
they can
suck it up
for that
Yeah.
shot. So like, I don't like the hunchy and like the curling in on oneself. I think use one hand on the chin and maybe extend the other one out. And I didn't see the other photos, maybe that you did do these shots and I'm telling you to do something you already did. But I don't like how tense it is.
Yeah, I also like, just as a note, one of the like tips that I say in terms of posing the most is to tell a cosplayer to roll their shoulders back. Like that's constantly something I'm saying, because like most people don't have very good posture, and just telling people to roll their shoulders back and kind of pop their posture, it helps so much. Like I'm sitting here having real shit posture, but like if I can just like roll those shoulders back, and it's gonna do so much to fix posture real quick.
That's a good tip.
Other teeny little nitpick in this shot, I think that the bokeh, the orange bokeh, like up in the top right corner, just, I don't know, it just is kind of something because of the color and the brightness. My eye gets drawn to it, and I just quick Photoshop that out. Cool.
Oh, are you sorry? Were you talking about the top right corner, those two window panes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I like that. I like that it adds that element of warmth and.
I think if there was more,
just adds a little more.
Yeah,
throw more of it. Yeah. Put more in there.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this one, or move on to the next one?
Let's move on.
All right. Cool. The next shot up is from Maho Maddie. Sarah, do you want to lead us off?
Yes. Okay, sorry.
So my girl Jess. Hell yeah.
Who?
I'm good friends with the cosplayer, so.
Oh, nice. Wait, is this the Howl?
Yeah, she cosplayed.
Oh my god. Dude, that's freaking crazy. She looks so different. Anyway, so right off the bat, so more mellow greens, which is great. But I'm also like a really big sucker for like a green environment and then like that pop of red. So I think I really like the color choice that the photographer made for their color grading. I think it's super nice. I also really like this kind of like this like natural light, but it's almost kind of like a spotlight that's like only on the cosplay really, and like kind of like that rock. So I think the lighting is pretty interesting. That being said, though, I kind of wish maybe if they, I mean, I'm not really sure exactly where the light is going to be falling, but if they just set back a little bit so it was hitting their face like a tiny bit more, because it's hitting the top of their wig like pretty well. So I think maybe just a step back, or maybe if they'd angled their face a little more towards the camera, but like still looking off, just so it could capture her facial features a bit more. I think that would have been really nice because the lighting's really nice overall. Her face just feels a little dark.
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
weird. I feel like the adjustments in terms of the luminance values was done really well on this photo to kind of make it even. It's funny because the way that this photo was edited reminds me a lot of a photographer called Infinity Spiral, which is I know he hosted this meetup that this shot was taken at. That's why I think it's really interesting that it gives me that feel. But I think what I want with this shot, and I think what you could have done is invest in a 5-in-1 reflector. Take that off the reflector mode and to the big diffuser, and diffuse the light for this shot. Like it just has that like the light's just like, I think you did a really great job in post tempering the hardness of that light, but I think just kind of the funkiness to the shadows that it's causing is hard to edit out. So I'd really recommend just it's one of my favorite tools is just the diffuser for the 5-in-1 reflector. You can soften up that light and make it a lot more beautiful. I think the light direction is nice. It's just the hardness is a bit too much.
It's interesting. I don't know if I'm correct in this little nitpick, but it feels flat to me. Something about this image, which is why I kind of was initially against getting a diffuser, because this already feels flat. And for some reason, it feels like even the rock is that a big boulder in the background. I don't know why that looks like it was superimposed on the image. Something about this feels flat, and I'm losing some.
I mean, it's just like if you look at the histogram, it's a lot of values in a small space. That's part of it. Like if you look at where the areas like highlights, which like on like her chest or like on her forehead, they're not very bright. So you're kind of like all the values have been compressed. I think it gives it kind of an interesting look, but it does kind of make it feel flatter.
Yeah, there's something happening there. Also, I just noticed she has a little fishy on her belt. That is so cute.
Yeah, it's Magnus from the Adventure Zone.
Oh, okay. I'm also seeing, if you guys zoom in and go down to her hand that's holding the weapon, there's a definite difference here, and something got a little overlooked in post where
I didn't even notice the weapon.
The handle, and first of all, there's that. Second of all, from that shadow where the ribbon is, right, like it's very dark, and then once it gets to her knuckle, there's like an instant sort of change in there where it looks like they darkened that background of the boulder, and that weapon handle just got lost. And I actually, though, now that I'm saying it, the shadow on her leg of the weapon is super cool. I like that, but I do lose that weapon. I'd probably dodge that ribbon a little bit and lighten up whatever shadows you deepened by where that ribbon is so that we can see where the weapon starts. Because I'm barely seeing that handle creeping out of the shadows.
Yeah. The other thing that I think about this photo is, and shields are hard to pose in general just because you lose a lot of information, but the shield is not, is probably the weakest part of this pose. Everything else is for the most part working for me, but I think it just kind of feels like this big circle chilling in front of her, and I don't. The thing is, I don't necessarily have a great recommendation as to how to fix it at this moment, but I'm just not feeling the shield in this aspect.
And because the way it catches light, that looks like the most. That looks like the part of the photo that has the most dimension out of anything else, especially her face, where again I'm feeling something flat. So my eye keeps going back to the texture and the dimension of this shield that is catching the light, and I wish that could translate up to her.
I think I figured out what's bothering me about it. It's the fact that like she's in a really relaxed pose. Like, yeah, she has her weapon out, but like it nothing about it feels like she's ready to battle. Yet she has her shield up, which is like an awkward pose to hold a shield. Like, that's not going to be the comfortable pose. I think you want it kind of down into the side, or if you want that shield up, you need to have it more of a combat-y pose.
Yeah, it's a very thoughtful pose, a thoughtful expression, but the things that they're holding in the image kind of juxtapose that. So that's another thing that I feel like I catch a lot is inconsistency in between poses and expression, and like what kind of, you just want to ask yourself like what kind of moment you want to create before you execute the image, and then make that whole thing cohesive. Again, like maybe with that Lara Croft Tomb Raider photo we saw earlier, where the pose was great, but the expression wasn't matching what everything else was kind of implying. So there's that.
Any final thoughts on this one, or should we move on to the next one?
I'm good.
Okay. This next one is by everyone's favorite Mallow. Mallow. And I think, Riley, you are actually up on this one. I know we talked
Which
about
is so funny because beforehand I was like, hey guys, I've never done this before. Like, what do I do if I actually like don't have that much to critique about a photo? And they're like, don't worry, we got it. We know her. And I'm like, okay. But like, I looked at this for a long time, and there's so much that I do like about it. Can I just gush a little bit about what I really like about this? I love their freckles. First of all, this human being is adorable. I really like the slight motion blur that you put in the Mickey keychain. Very much enjoying the colors. I hope you had a lot of fun cloning out all the fucking garbage on Garbage Beach, Katsukan Land.
So real.
Oh, that's a real mood.
To me, there's so much to look at in this picture. I also really like the patterns on the rocks that lead towards the details of the shoe. And I also am very fond, for some reason, this is sort of where I'm leaning towards a lot with posing and expression, but I really like where they're looking. I like where you positioned where they're looking, and I like their expression. I feel like there was a lot of communication between you two and what kind of shot you were trying to execute, and I think it went well. If I had, what I didn't want to do in this stream is if I liked a picture, I wasn't going to try and find something wrong with it, because sometimes an image just works. But I mean, I guess I would like darken the blade part at the end of the keyblade a little bit. It looks a little blown out. Other than that, it looks like the other two know you and your style a little bit more than I do, so they'd probably he's looking at Riku, his boyfriend, canon. Anyway,
I mean, not fucking wrong.
Duh. I'm actually replaying Kingdom Hearts. I haven't played it since I was like 14, so it's been a while, and so I'm like very much into this whole Kingdom Hearts hype. But that's what I have to say about this. And yeah, you guys seem to know her a bit better than I do, so hopefully you can give some constructive criticism.
Look, something I want to say kind of based on that thought is like, I think sometimes an image, like we've critiqued images that I think are genuinely really, really good, images that I've loved, but I'm a firm believer that there is no such thing as a perfect image and everything can be improved. Maybe it's because of my incredibly anal personality that I'm always looking for the improvements. But I kind of, in that viewpoint, am always feeling like, there's some ways images could be improved. So that's kind of like, even like if we do get that great image, what we're here to do is kind of, continue to help no matter how great or not so great a photo is. So just wanted to get that out of the way. And I don't necessarily think your opinion on that is an incorrect one. It's just kind of different approach from what I think I take, and I think Sarah does as well. Also, maybe we're just like assholes, like it's a real possibility.
Oh no, make no mistake, I am an asshole. It's just I like this picture.
There can always be improvements, but you're right. Sometimes there's just a you really, really love, and it's hard to find something that could technically like could necessarily make the photo better. So I get what you're saying, Riley.
So on that note, there were some things I really, really love in this photo. I love the colors. I love the texture. I love the lighting. All of those things are enough to make this photo really, really great. The pose and, you know, big floppy shoe boy makes it certainly hard. But just the pose feels a bit too static to me. And I know it's kind of the off contemplative looking, but I kind of don't feel like we get a lot of context for what they're what he's looking at. So it doesn't.
He's looking at Kingdom Hearts.
He's looking at Riku.
Duh.
Just kill me. Tried to take off my glasses dramatically, and I can't even do that right. Well, game over, guys. I guess it's a great photo. I don't have any opinion now. Okay. No, but for real, I just kind of think that there's a lot of like in terms of like the pose the photo. That was a sentence. He's just taking up like a very straight line of the photo. The only thing that breaks up that straight line is the keyblade, and that's just not enough for me. I think maybe even if his body was turned a little bit and maybe just had like a bit of a kind of more like lean in the torso, could kind of make that shape feel more dynamic than it is right now. You guys are having too much fun with that chat there.
I'm fucking dead. Oh my god.
Oh god, it's just derailed. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. We tried. Other thoughts. The Keyblade, the highlight on it is pretty hot. It's nearly pure white. I'd try and tone that down a little bit. It is drawing my eye in a lot. I almost want this framing to be a little bit wider and maybe a little bit lower. I don't know, like I'm loving the rocks. I am loving the water. The beach I could give up. It's I think that's probably in terms of the background, the beach is the weakest part.
Unfortunately, there's just nothing you can do about that. I mean, that's
beach. But that's kind of why I'd liked it to take up less of the frame, so I'd probably take it down a little bit more.
Agreed.
Sarah, you got any opinions on this, or you?
No.
You're just too busy being a meme lord over Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, we're talking about yaoi.
Yeah, we're talking about yaoi. Be quiet.
Save me.
Heal me, Donald.
Heal me. Except don't, because you suck.
Okay, before the stream becomes no one watching because we're terrible.
Everybody watching because we're awesome.
Let's move on to the next photo. Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
To be fair, Mal didn't even think she was gonna be in this. So.
Well, she done screwed up. She
surprised.
She submitted a photo. Amazing how the photo that was submitted got included into the critique. Who would ever thought? Okay, let's move on to this next photo. This next one is from Ryan. Let's get that up here and oops, not the right button. Let's click that.
Ooh.
So I think this image is interesting because I think it's kind of fighting itself. There's a lot right in this image that I really enjoy, and there's a lot that I'm not feeling in this image, and they kind of feel like those two aspects are fighting a little bit here. Excuse me. I really love the dynamic motion in this pose. Like, one thing you just really don't see a lot in cosplay photography is motion. It just kind of, we take a lot of people standing still, kind of faking motion, not like actually in motion. Which is fine to some extent, but it, makes a lot of pictures feel more static for understandable reasons. And I really do like kind of the dancing motion in this image. I think it kind of has a real nice flow to it. I kind of like the muted colors in this image. I think the green of the trees kind of fighting that, but the colors in the rest of the frame I really like. To me though, the like hotel building in the background is just not doing it for me. That background is just kind of pulling me out of the image and kind of out of the feeling, because I look in the background and I just kind of feel like I see modern hotel in the background. And I get that's, kind of the unfortunate nature of cons, but I kind of feel like, and I don't know this for sure, but the big old cool looking rock in the background there, I don't know how big that is. But in those situations where you don't have the ability to like shoot without like buildings and hotels in the background, I'd take it the entirely opposite route and go up close to that rock wall and have that rock wall take up a lot of the background. That way you're not trying to fight against the hotel, you're just removing it entirely. And that big piece of rock looks like it could look really cool. I don't really know that for sure, but I'm kind of feeling like that would be the case.
I'm feeling a very overall sepia filter on this esque sort of thing. And it makes the overall image have almost a flatness to it again. And I want to see more dimension and color, but it feels like the mood. I want a more separation between the subject and the background and those tones. But otherwise, like, really great location. I think. Sorry, was this at Otakon?
I don't know.
I think this was a location.
I think it is at Otakon.
Yeah.
I think Apple's shot here. It has like the Japanese garden or something.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been melting the entire weekend, I would have gone over there.
Freaking real.
But so cool. I love a good spinny shot. And it does look like they're really in the moment. But I would want to just see a little bit more dimension between the background and the subject.
Yeah, Jin actually brought up how like the moment, especially the cosplayer's expression, is like it's very much they caught it like so well that the focus I feel like was like even if they just moved in, so the focus was more on them and less of the environment. Even in the same position, I think would have been a stronger shot. Yeah, because all the background stuff is just, I think, distracting at this point and isn't really helping the image at all.
Well, since the photo is already taken, at the very least, I would clone out maybe that light that's on the left. There's a hotel light like on the wall.
On the building.
On the building. I would just clone that out. But I do like that light coming through in the background with the gate to the Japanese garden. But yeah, that's probably the couple of adjustments I would make. I just don't like the overall flatness to the toning. I would maybe add some blue to the shadows in the background, some blue or magenta, and keep them as they are, which is a little bit warmer. But it just feels a little too slate, like warm gray. There's a lot of that going on. Yeah. And I just want to see a little bit more because the rocks are gray, the ground is gray, the background's like this gray, the bench, the stone bench is this gray, and their pants are gray. There's a lot happening. I want to just see some more dimension among those tones.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think a lot of thought was put into kind of the movement of the cosplayer in this and kind of not the background felt like a secondary thought, and it's hard, especially when you're starting out, to to spend as much thought on those two things. But I think that's something to really work on is not just figure out the pose, the movement, but really spend a lot of time figuring out your frame before you even take a click of the shutter.
Mm.
Any other thoughts on this one, or should we head on to the next one?
Let's move on.
Let's go.
Cool. Oh God, we're gonna go back to more of this, aren't we?
Oh,
This
fuck
shot
yeah.
is from PTK Photography, and it's more
More Kingdom Hearts.
Sarah, you get to lead this one off, which is maybe a mistake, but whatever.
This is great because Sora's obviously thinking about his boyfriend in this photo. Duh. Yeah. Anyway, so compared to the other one where it was like capturing like the focus was very much on Sora, I like how this one is more capturing like a moment that Sora is having. I like that it's like this more like contemplative thing, like he's like, because the whole thing is about like he's separated from his friends and now he's thinking about them, and I feel like that mood is like in this photo. Like the keyblade in the foreground I think is a nice touch because it's kind of like casted away. He's not really thinking about it. He's kind of more like reminiscing on like the current moment. So I think that's really nice. Toning wise though, or not even toning wise, but I think this just has to do with like on location shooting, and shooting the sky is freaking hard as shit sometimes, but the sky and the ocean are so blown out, and I don't know if there was any way to bring it back, or maybe that day was just because there's sun, I think, just based on the light on the left. I kind of wish some of that detail was brought back in. I think just visually that would have really helped make the image pop a bit more, because it is a little muted in terms of like colors. Like there's not a lot going on. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. It feels very bright. And you can kind of create some more dimension with the ocean just by playing with that with curves or whatever you prefer. Because the ocean is definitely a big part of the mood of this image and the overall narrative. And you don't want to let that get too blown out.
Mm-hmm.
So I would really want to see more of that. And also I really do like the story you tell with the keyblade. I don't play enough with that, with like more symbolic foreground that kind of leads into subject. So I like that. I like that thought a lot.
I really like the idea of the keyblade, but its positioning I do not.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs to be less in the foreground. Like at like immediate look at this image, you can almost read like they accidentally screwed up and included like a weird bar in the image, and then you like think about it for just a bit longer, and you're like, oh no, it's a keyblade. But
no, I think that if you know the image, if you know what you're looking at, you know what that is. But I think that you're right; it is a little close.
No, it's
it almost looks like it's superimposed.
Yeah, I'm exaggerating.
I was like, can I say something crazy? Is it composited in? Is that even real?
Composited in.
Yeah, because the lighting doesn't make a whole
study here.
And also the weird like blurring around the edges, especially at the bottom, are kind of odd.
Yeah, it doesn't. I almost wonder if that foreground bokeh is maybe faked. I don't know.
I think so.
What is real?
Nothing's real. It's Kingdom Hearts. Everything is.
God, mood.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know. I definitely feel like the keyblade needs to be a little bit further away from the frame. I am totally cool with it being out of focus in the sand. I think that's a really cool idea. Just the placement is not working for me.
I agree. I think it'd be a little better.
See, this is going back to like JPEG versus RAW. I think this would be a great opportunity if you did shoot RAW to bring out that information that you lost. And if I shot this like this in JPEG, I would be fucked because there would be nothing to no information to kind of grab through. So this is again another great instance where RAW is the superior. So otherwise, try to do your best to bring in the detail that you did lose. It just feels too bright. I want a little bit more from that. And also the light on the Sora's wig is really great. Maybe play up with the magentas and the blues to kind of accentuate this sunsetty Kingdom Hearts thoughtful vibe. Really immerse yourself and play with the colors and have a little fun with it and see what works for you. Because I feel like I don't know, it just feels like there hasn't been any color enhancements to this picture, and I think that would really be fun for it.
I agree.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I also think, I feel like this image is not quite in focus, especially like, and it maybe is just kind of the glow from the sun, but the focus does feel pretty soft.
Yeah, I was gonna say it does feel.
Although
yeah,
it's hard because I
blurry.
feel like nothing is really super sharp in this image. That's why I'm kind of like mildly confused about the sharpness. But yeah. Okay, let's mosey on to the next shot. This one is from Stucky Media. Riley, do you want to take us off here?
Sure, I'm really drawn to the eyeball. Great, great on the model for really serving that look just with one eye. With the fact that I can get such an impactful expression just with the eye showing. No other eye, no mouth, no tightness of the jaw or anything. Really cool, steely look that he's giving us. Also, I think that the focus is looking pretty good here. You've got that focus on his jacket and the weathering on the helmet, and then right down to that eye, which, like one thing that you wanted to achieve with this photo, I'm going to wager a guess, is to just look right at that expression, right at that eye. And so you get that. There aren't many distractions that are pulling you away from your intent. So that's great. Otherwise, I just am a little bit bored with the overall composition and the setting. I don't know what you were working with. God knows what we have to work with sometimes at conventions, if this is a convention shoot. So I just feel like I would have liked something a little more immersive for the background.
Yeah, I think it could have been so much like I feel like it's almost like an eggshell, like a little bit like Tanner, but like it feels like that eggshell painted wall kind of thing. And like if you'd found like a concrete wall at the con, this same
something
composition
grungier.
Would have been so much better.
would work so much better. Like it
is definitely eggshell. It is like a perfect eggshell color. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's that like not the
wrapped in an egg.
Yeah, that darker colored egg.
God, now I can't.
And it's got the same texture too. So that's all I'm thinking.
He's inside an egg.
Oh God.
He's in the womb.
But I think that could, and I almost wonder, like, could this lighting be taken harder? I think it's almost a bit soft for the subject matter, because like if you put this against a grungy wall with like a harder light, I think you're kind of going this mean, angrier look, grungier look. Get that hard light in there. Don't make things soft. I think the lighting's not like it's not really soft, but I think you could go harder on this the lighting in this image, and it would kind of read better.
Yeah, I can see that too. I wouldn't think to make that sort of criticism because I know so little about lighting. But yeah, also I don't know if I'm correct here, but it almost looks like it's sharper on the jacket than it is on the mask.
Yeah, I think
yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's hard to tell totally.
Which is fine. We all miss that focus every once in a while, but if that is the case, what I normally do when I'm like, oh shit, I missed the focus a little bit, is I would blur out just very subtly that jacket and the sharpness on the EVA foam that's making up the bat symbol. Just to again kind of guide that eye, because a lot of the time I'm looking at that jacket and I'm like, that is a sharp jacket. But yeah, that would be some advice.
Other things. I think you could actually, like, we talked about focus and softness, and if you're using a strobe with this shot and you're going for like that grungier look, there's no need for that shallow of a depth of field. You can up
That's
that
a good
depth of
point.
field more, and you don't
Meanwhile,
have
I'm
to worry
like,
about
what?
that.
What? You mean
You
I can't
can
shoot at
past
1.4 the
like
entire time?
yeah, this was shot
Fuck.
at 85 millimeters f2.2, and I think you could shoot
Oh,
this at
okay.
about f4 and maybe end up getting a strong. You could probably take it even past f4, but you know that we don't want to get too
Gosh.
crazy.
That's too much.
But that would be maybe a way to take that. I also think maybe you change the color of the background. It should be pretty easy to change it in this shot.
I was gonna say, like, if there was no other option, I would have color.
Yeah.
Just so it's not freaking like organic eggshell color.
Yeah, I'd almost
I know. I just went to Whole
desaturate the
Foods
photo
today and
as a
I
whole,
bought
too.
some nice free range eggs, the exact color of that wall. So
Thank you about that.
Last but certainly not least.
That safety cap, though.
Yes, you gotta get rid of that orange tip on the gun.
Just
You
desaturate it.
You
Just the
can't
tip.
have that. Just the tip.
No.
hashtag just the tip.
I'd such an easy Photoshop too that like there's no reason not to do that. Just yeah, take like the 30 seconds that it's gonna take to get rid of the orange and get rid of it. Like you can spend even longer like making it look really believable, but man, if you're being lazy about it, like some of us occasionally do, it should be a real fast fix. Okay, any other thoughts on this one?
I'm good. Yeah, I want to see a little more grungy with the tones.
I almost
yeah, the
think
eggshell.
if you wanted to, I think you could really play around with the lighting, or not the lighting, the grunginess of the background in post too. Like there's no like it would be great to have the shot that on the grungier background to begin with, but you could totally grunge it up in post too. It seems like it
That'd
should
be
be an
fun.
easy enough photo to take a selection of. You've got a really nice reference for the shadows and highlights, because the background is such a flat color, so you can like duplicate just the background, desaturate it and then set that to like soft light over whatever texture you apply, and it should work real well.
Like it's beautifully exposed. There's a lot to play with and you have a lot of room to experiment. So I'd say put this back in Photoshop, Lightroom, what have you, and play with the colors and see how that changes the mood, because it's very warm and the expression that I'm getting from him is very cold. And so I kind of want you to play that up a little bit with the toning. Yeah.
Okay. With that, let's move on to the God, is the mail blowing up the chat again? I feel like
She said, I want this photo to have Comic Sans font that says, I do things.
Oh, Mallow. Oh,
I'm
Mallow.
dead.
Okay, and the last but not least, we have a photo from a Piece of Light, or Ustav, who's also a constant submitter. So
Dude, Utsav is killing it.
yeah, this is good. This is good shit. I know, like I feel
Where
like
the fuck is this?
this is the kind of shot where I'm just like, you probably stuck someone in the fountain, and normally that looks stupid, but man, it works here. Like,
I really want to know.
I don't know if this is like a fountain or if it's like actually like a river or something, but like it looks good. The water, the way it's kind of just so naturally flowing, and the fact that everything feels like it's flowing really fast around her, but like she is just on the surface. It's the water is only like an inch or two deep. Like the fact that you found this spot that works is real awesome.
Like my only like gripe with it is I really don't like the cyan coloring of water.
Yeah, that is totally my issue too. Like I
Just because
love
it
this
clashes
image
with the
so
blue.
much, and
Yeah.
the fact that it is all that one color, there feels like there's no color depth to the color.
Exactly.
It's all just one color, and it makes it feel like you made a selection of her and then created
real
like a layer,
waterfall.
like made a layer mask and of like that cyan color and set that blend mode to color, and it just is not working for me. You can lower the saturation, or even that, like what I'd like to see is maybe like a deeper blue in the shadows, and like maybe a very light teal in the highlights for the water. Really just give it some more color depth, because it feels like you made the background all the water monotone, and I mean you essentially did, but
And also making sure the hue matches the blue, because when you have two blues, like two types of blues next to each other, like right now it's clashing for me, just like color wise.
Yeah, I'm seeing that there's a lot of physical immersion in the environment. Like she's in the water. Like you're not photoshopping her in the water. She is like in there. But with the colors that you did, you make her look very separate from it. And I would encourage you just use the hue saturation tool and slide and just make a uniform color when there's so much else you could play with. You could play with these rocks. You could play with the water in the background versus the dark shadows behind that water in the background. There's a lot of dimension that you can add to this image that I feel like you lose because you just blanketed like a cyan filter over it.
Yeah, I think it's that the color of this sticks out so much to me because I enjoy it. In fact, like the color makes me feel like, of the background, makes me feel like her skin tone's too yellow. And I don't necessarily think her skin tone is too yellow, but it's the background makes her skin tone too yellow.
Yeah, this is a case where the colors are making like interpret it differently. Yeah.
I'm also not big on her pose. I think it's really stiff, and I think I'm not buying it.
It's hard because I do. There's parts of it that I do like, and I mean, posing in a mermaid dress those mermaid tails.
You can only do so much.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that she even got out there is astounding to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. How did she do that? Did someone carry her? Did someone carry her? I want to know.
Yeah, it's impressive.
But this just feels flat. It feels there could just be so much more from that. It feels like maybe she was holding that for a while, and so it just kind of fell stale after a while for her. You could change the fingers, you could maybe have her look down her shoulder, but like it just feels flat and stale.
I think it kind of reads on her face. Like you can definitely tell that she was probably holding that for a good like 30 seconds.
Yeah. At least, yeah.
I also think, because this is a natural waterfall, now that we've found that out, man, zoom this out too. I'd love to see this a lot wider.
Show us that environment for real.
Because like, man,
because all we're getting is just water.
I mean, it's still really cool. I really like it, but I think I could really like it more.
Yeah. Apparently she was able to walk and get out there by herself.
I'm so worried. Like, how'd she not slip?
That's impressive.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Also, maybe for funsies, like since there's a lot of detail on her mermaid bra, dodge that up a little bit. You know, since she put detail, like first thing I do, and like when I get a freaking Sakizo is like, okay, gotta attack these details first.
Emphasize those details.
Yeah, before you get too lost in the image as a whole, you know, you want to bring out what they worked hard on instead of, you know, like, I feel like as photographers, sometimes we can get a little self-indulgent and look at the image as a whole, but what we're doing this kind of hobby for is to accentuate their craftsmanship. So it's important to bring that out, highlight that a little bit, because there looks to be a lot of beating and some thought put into it. So I'd love to get more detail on that. What am I missing?
No, in chat it'll. Yeah, let's so behind Infinity said let's her hand needs to use the Andrew fist trick. Let's not ever call it that again.
Jin is good with the words.
Oh my god.
Mellow.
Okay, quick, save it. We got Control Z. Guys, got any thoughts on this one? I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think I said my piece of light.
And with that was the final image of the critique. We're just on a roll here. Dutch anal and fist trick. No, let's stop. This is just the danger zone. We don't want to go there. We need to stop. We need to find an adult. Nightbot's gonna come in and just ban you all. It's okay. With that, I'd love to give a sincere thank you to Riley for joining us on this critique.
You were so good.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you, and your insight was awesome. And it was super helpful having you on.
Thank you both so much for thinking of inviting me. This is a really cool thing that you guys do, and I think it provides a great, stage for conversation. Despite how it can be derailed from time to time, but there's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fun.
Yeah,
it's
we
fun.
get
Thank
derailed.
you so much.
I hope the people have spoken and they like us being silly like this, so it's fine.
I wasn't critiquing the critique. I was just saying,
but you can if you want. It's
despite all the fisting, this is a great idea.
Stop. Oh my god.
Oh, thank you guys. We got some great stuff in today. It was nice to see some other photographers' work and to draw a little bit of inspiration from what other people are doing right now.
Yeah. So Riley, where can people find you, and maybe what cons are you going to be at in the near future?
Sure. Well, right now I'm really trying to push people checking me out in Boston. I have some really cool locations in mind. There's this really neat, I've been pushing this like crazy. There's this really neat fog exhibit.
That's really cool.
Environmental structure that's dotted all along these really neat green parks in Boston that emanate this fog throughout the whole day. And it's just it's really cool. It's only here till Halloween. So I'm trying to book as many as I can to kind of just, you never get that. How the heck do you luck out and get fog in a photo shoot? So
in the fall.
I know. So I'm trying to push that. But otherwise, Katsu is usually where I'm at, especially with weddings picking up. I'll probably be doing cons a little less, but I do love KatsuCon. I'm always at Anime Boston, and I'm always booking for also North Carolina shoots. Sometimes I go there. But otherwise, it doesn't look like I have a lot of conventions to go to soon. I was thinking MagFest, because that looks kind of fun. I mean, not MagFest, Holmat. That sounds really fun. Lots of people are talking about that lately. But, lots of people say that's really fun. I don't know. Should I go there? Is that fun?
I've heard good things about Holmat, so...
I've heard good things about Holmat. If you like Christmas and you like...
Yeah. But usually Katsu is my one trick pony for the most part. So yeah, but I'm at AB too. But hit me up in Boston, and my Instagram is Chez Photo Cosplay, and yeah, that's it. Don't follow me on Twitter. I'm so fucking annoying.
Please follow Riley. She's so talented.
Thank you guys. I love your work, and I'm so happy that you guys
Twitter.
had me on. No, I'm so annoying on Twitter.
Yeah,
but all right, cool. But thank you guys so much.
Yeah. People know where to find you and me, Sarah. At this point, I feel like we don't even need to repeat it.
Just not Facebook. Just don't contact me on Facebook. I won't see it. Please don't.
Oh my God, Rushki just gifted Nightbot a sub. Stop.
I didn't even know you could do that.
I didn't even think that was possible. But that's an interesting approach. Jesus. Now you totally derailed my thought, Rushki. I'm just blabbing now. So I wanted to give a thank you to everyone in the chat for joining this and having fun and joining us on this ridiculous adventure. If you enjoyed the stream, please consider giving a donation. It is not mandatory by any means, but it is huge. Oh my God. And just as that happens, Boba de Hobo comes in with a $45 donation towards buying me a Guy Fieri shirt.
Thank you.
How nice.
Now I need to buy a Guy Fieri shirt though, so I don't know how I feel about this.
Do it.
Thank you, Bobo.
Please don't. This could be your.
Oh God. But if you think we're doing a good job and enjoy this stream, consider giving us a donation, and maybe I'll buy a Guy Fieri shirt and hate my life.
In style.
Yeah, and then I'll take you guys all to Nitpick Town.
Speaking of Flavor Town, I'm hungry. Oh my God.
Shit. What else is there? With that, also, if you have subscribed if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing or giving someone a gift subscription. Especially if you're one of the many, many people Heidi has given a gift subscription
Thank you, Heidi.
Heidi, you're freaking amazing. You are amazing.
Wow.
And I guess I'll transition into that before I get to the other part of what I was going to say. Is speaking of Heidi being amazing, our next stream will feature Heidi as our guest.
Yay!
So
I'll be there.
Heidi will be on joining us for the critique. Her work is freaking phenomenal. Her cosplay stuff is just out of this world.
Next level.
So and she will provide a pretty interesting and cool insight. So should be super fun having her on. Word of warning, the next critique will not be on a Thursday. Unfortunately, we just couldn't make it work for a Thursday. In terms of like scheduling, not on Heidi's part, just on Sarah and my part. So the next critique will be on a Monday, October 8th. It'll still be at 7 p.m. though. So if you can make it.
Same time, different day.
Yeah. Same time, different day. Exactly. So it'll be October 8th at 7 p.m. Last thing I wanted to say in terms of that, if you have been given a if you have been given a gift subscription, please consider following that up for the next month via September. I just dropped a link in the chat for that. You can re-up your sub for the following month for just $1, which is a pretty cool thing to do, and I would greatly appreciate those that would consider doing that. On that same thought, one of the best ways we can grow is if you guys talk and about the critique and share it. So the more you guys tell other people about this, the more it helps us. So if you're enjoying it, let other people know. It helps a ton.
Thank you guys for having me and being responsive and welcoming, and everyone in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, and with that, I think it is time for us to wrap up for the night. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys. Hopefully, I'll have an editing stream before then in the next stream, but if not, we will see you at the next critique. Have a good night, everyone, and
bye, y'all.
Bye.